Hello guys, welcome to Saiyan What Ifs. So in this video, we will see, what if Goku became the Time Dragon and got Harem of Multiverse Queens? If you enjoy these kinds of stories, don't forget to show us some love by hitting the like button and subscribing to the channel. Your support means the world to us. Now, let's start the story. Chapter 1. Ascension. The universe held its breath. Goku floated cross-legged above Mount Paozu, eyes closed in meditation, his GI rippling against the mountain breeze. 6 months had passed since the Tournament of Power, and though peace had returned to Universe 7, the Saiyan warrior found himself restless. The tournament had revealed just how vast existence truly was, multiple universes. Each with their own gods, warriors, and histories. There's always someone stronger, he whispered to himself, a smile playing across his lips. He inhaled deeply, drawing ki into his core. The familiar energy flowed through pathways worn smooth by decades of training, but today something felt different. As Goku pushed his senses outward, exploring the boundaries of his perception, he detected an anomaly, a distortion in reality itself, like a ripple in still water. His eyes snapped open. What was that? The distortion pulsed again, stronger this time, as if responding to his awareness. Curiosity overwhelmed caution, and Goku extended his fingers to his forehead, focusing on the strange energy signature. Instant transmission had never been used to track something so unusual, but instinct told him this was important. Here goes nothing, he muttered, and vanished from Earth. The transition stretched longer than any teleportation he'd attempted before. Stars blurred around him as he passed through not just space but something else. Layers of reality folding and unfolding like origami in the hands of a master. When the universe finally solidified around him, Goku found himself floating in a vast crystalline chamber that existed somewhere beyond conventional space. Massive timepieces of incomprehensible design hung suspended in the void, their hands moving in contradicting patterns. Streams of luminescent energy flowed between them, forming a web of temporal connections stretching into infinity. At the chamber's center floated an enormous dragon unlike any Goku had encountered before. Its scales shimmered with constellation patterns, and its eyes contained swirling galaxies. Unlike Shenron or Porunga, this dragon's form was deteriorating, becoming translucent at the edges. Son Goku. The dragon's voice resonated not in the air but directly in Goku's mind, each word carrying the weight of eons. You have come at last. Goku dropped into a defensive stance. You know me. I have watched you across many timelines. The dragon's massive head lowered, bringing one cosmic eye level with the Saiyan. I am Kronos, the supreme dragon of time, her of the temporal order across all universes. A time dragon. Goku relaxed slightly, curiosity overtaking wariness. I didn't know something like you existed. Few do. Even the supreme Kais and Odds of destruction are granted only glimpses of my work. A tremor passed through the dragon's massive form, causing several nearby timepieces to shudder. But my time ends. The multiverse faces a threat beyond imagination. And I have chosen you as my successor. Goku blinked, processing the dragon's words. Wait, successor. I'm just a fighter. I don't know anything about. He gestured at the incomprehensible machinery of time surrounding them. All this. Kronos exhaled a breath that smelled of stardust and possibility. You are far more than just a fighter, son Goku. Across infinite timelines, your spirit remains constant, a heart that seeks strength not for domination but for protection. You have transcended mortal limitations repeatedly, and most importantly, you understand that power must serve purpose. The dragon's form flickered, becoming more transparent. I have not brought you here to ask, Saiyan. Time is fracturing. My power wanes. The choice has already been made. Before Goku could protest further, the chamber around them shattered like glass, revealing a swirling vortex of temporal energy. Within the maelstrom, Goku witnessed fragments of potential futures, Earth consumed by fire. Vegeta standing over his grave, head bowed in rare respect, his sons aged and battling unknown enemies, and most disturbingly, a wave of nothingness erasing entire galaxies as if they had never existed. What is that? Goku demanded, horrified by the visions. The convergence, Kronos replied, voice weakening. An entity from outside our multiverse seeks to collapse all timelines into a single reality of his design. I have held him at bay for millennia, but my strength fails. Without a successor, all reality will fall. The dragon's deteriorating form began to circle Goku, trailing stardust and temporal energy. I offer you my essence, my power, and my burden. You will remain yourself, but also become something more, the guardian of time, preserver of possibility. Goku shook his head, backing away. This isn't right. There must be someone better suited for this. What about the Supreme Kai? Or Beerus? They're actual gods. They are bound to single universes, their perspective too narrow. Kronos continued his orbit around the protesting Saiyan. You alone have the necessary combination of strength, heart, and adaptability. You understand that power comes in many forms. You respect differences rather than fearing them. The dragon stopped, facing Goku directly. If you refuse, I cannot force you. But know that everything, every person you have ever loved, every battle you have ever fought, every moment of joy and pain across all existence, will end. Not just die, but never have existed at all. Goku closed his eyes, feeling the weight of the dragon's words settle upon him. He had never sought responsibility beyond protecting those he cared about. He was a warrior, not a guardian deity. Yet the vision of his sons facing that wave of nothingness alone. If I accept, he asked quietly, will I still be me? Can I still fight, still protect my family and friends? You will remain Son Goku, Kronos confirmed. My power will become yours to wield, my knowledge yours to access. You may continue your life, though your perspective will expand beyond imagination. The transition will be difficult, but your strength has always been adaptation. Goku took a deep breath, centering himself as he had before countless battles. I accept. The moment the words left his lips, Kronos roared, a sound that echoed across dimensions. The dragon's form dissolved into streams of cosmic energy that spiraled toward Goku like luminous serpents. They enveloped him, seeping through his skin and into his very essence. Pain unlike anything he had ever experienced ripped through Goku's body. Worse than his first transformation to Super Saiyan, more intense than the spirit bomb's energy tearing through his muscles. This was not just physical agony but the pain of High's consciousness expanding beyond its natural boundaries. Millennia of memories flooded his mind. The birth and death of universes, the rise and fall of civilizations, the eternal dance of creation and destruction. Goku screamed, his voice echoing across the temporal void as his form began to change. Golden scales materialized along his arms, shimmering with the same constellation patterns that had adorned Kronos. His eyes shifted, irises expanding until they resembled miniature galaxies. Power coursed through him, different from ki, older and more fundamental to the fabric of reality. Then, as suddenly as it began, the transformation ended. Goku floated in the void, steam rising from his altered body as the excess energy dissipated. He raised his hands, examining the scales that now appeared along his forearms, gleaming with celestial light before gradually fading back into normal skin. The physical changes will manifest only when you channel temporal power, Kronos' voice echoed from everywhere and nowhere. The rest remains within, waiting to be called upon when needed. Goku flexed his fingers, feeling the strange new energy humming beneath his skin. It feels alive. Time itself is alive, in its way. The fading consciousness of Kronos replied. You are now its guardian, its shepherd, and when necessary, its warrior. As the last traces of the time dragon's separate consciousness dissolved into Goku's being, a tsunami of information crashed into his mind. The locations of temporal nexus points, the rhythms of chronological flow between dimensions, the names of ties that existed between seconds and beyond millennia. Most urgently, he felt disturbances spreading across the multiverse, fractures in the fabric of time itself. Universe 6, he murmured, the no-WL edge rising unbidden to his consciousness. Something's happening there. Instinctively, Goku extended his hand, tearing open a portal unlike any he had created before. This wasn't instant transmiss, ion or even the space-hopping technique of the Yardrats. This was the creation of a temporal corridor between universes. Golden light spilled from the portal's edges as Goku stepped through, leaving the chamber of timekeeping behind. The transition between universes stretched and compressed simultaneously, a sensation that would have been nauseating if not for the time dragon's essence now stabilizing his perception. When reality solidified again, Goku found himself floating above an ice-covered metropolis unlike anything in his universe. Crystalline spires reached toward the twin suns overhead, their surfaces refracting light in hypnotic patterns. But something was wrong. Temporal fractures spider-webbed across the sky like cracks in glass, visible only to his enhanced perception. Near the city's central plaza, one fracture had widened into a full breach, spilling chaotic energy onto the panicking citizens below. Humanoid beings with blue skin fled as the chronological distortion caused plants to wither and bloom in seconds. Architecture to age and crumble, then reverse to pristine condition only to deteriorate again. Goku descended toward the disturbance, instinctively drawing on his new powers. Golden scales bloomed across his arms and face as he extended his hands toward the breach. Time sense told him what to do, but his inexperience made execution difficult. The breach pulsed, expanding despite his efforts to seal it. "You're making it worse," a sharp voice called from behind. Goku turned to find a regal figure hovering nearby. Her ice-blue skin contrasted with armor of deep purple and silver, designed for both protection and to emphasize her authority. A crown of crystalline shards adorned her head, and her eyes narrowed critically as she assessed him. "Who are you, and what have you done to my capital?" she demanded, ice forming around her clenched fists. "I'm Son Goku, and I'm trying to help," he replied, struggling to maintain his concentration on the breach. "This is a time fracture. It could spread if we don't contain it." The woman's eyes widened slightly. A time fracture, like the temporal anomalies from the Scientific Council's reports. Her gaze focused on the golden scales now covering portions of Goku's skin. "What manner of being are you?" "That's complicated," Goku grimaced as the breach pulsed again. "I'm the new guardian of time, I guess. But I'm still figuring this out. Are you in charge here?" The woman drew herself up proudly. "I am Frost, Imperatrix of the Sixth Universe's United Worlds. And if my realm is threatened, I will defend it personally." She moved to Goku's side, ice energy swirling around her hands. "Tell me how to assist." Quickly, Goku's newly acquired knowledge surfaced again. The breach needs to be compressed from both sides simultaneously, then sealed with energy that can interface with temporal particles. He glanced at her ice powers. "Your energy might actually work. It can slow molecular movement, essentially freezing time on a micro scale." Frost raised an eyebrow, impressed despite herself. "Direct me." Together, they positioned themselves on opposite sides of the breach. Goku channeled gold, end-time energy through his palms while Frost generated her most refined ice power, a blue so deep it appeared almost black. Following Goku's instructions, they gradually pushed the edges of the fracture inward, compressing the chaotic temporal energy until it collapsed into a single point. "Now," Goku shouted. They both fired concentrated beams at the compressed point. The energies intertwined, gold and deep blue spiraling together, before detonating in a flash of light. When the brilliance faded, the breach was gone, though faint scars remained visible in the temporal fabric to Goku's enhanced senses. Frost lowered her hands, studying Goku with newfound respect. "You have my gratitude," she said formally, though wariness remained in her posture. "However, I require an explanation. These disturbances began 3 days ago across my empire. Scientific outposts in 6 systems have gone silent, and now my capital is affected." Goku's scales receded as he released the time energy, returning to his normal appearance. "It's happening across all universes," he explained, the knowledge coming to him as he spoke. "Someone or something is attacking the foundations of time itself. I was chosen to stop it." He rubbed the back of his neck, the familiar gesture at odds with the cosmic responsibility he now carried. Frost's eyes narrowed. "You're not what I expected from a temporal guardian. Trust me, I'm just as surprised," Goku admitted with a half-smile. "I was just a martial artist until about an hour ago. A warrior, then." Frost's expression shifted subtly. "That I can understand. My empire was forged through combat as much as diplomacy." She gestured toward the crystalline palace dominating the skyline. "Come, if these threats continue, we should coordinate our response. My Scientific Council has data you may find useful." Before Goku could respond, another tremor shook reality around them. This wasn't a localized breach but a wave passing through the entire universe. Civ. Aliens below cried out as they briefly experienced time at different rates, children momentarily aging into adults, elders briefly regaining youth. That came from the northern quadrant, Frost said, already moving in that direction. Our largest temporal research facility is located there. Goku nodded, following her lead. I can get us there faster. He placed a hand on her shoulder, focusing on the disturbance. Frost stiffened at the contact but remained still as Goku's newly enhanced teleportation enveloped them. They rematerialized above a vast complex built into the side of a mountain. Scientific equipment of incomprehensible design dotted the facility's exterior, but many were now damaged, some actively melting as if time was accelerating for them specifically. At the center of the complex, a massive spherical chamber pulsed with ominous energy. Figures in research attire fled the building while security forces attempted to establish a perimeter. The chronosphere, Frost explained grimly. An experimental device designed to observe other timestreams without interaction. It appears someone has modified its purpose. Inside the chamber, visible through a transparent section of the exterior wall, a petite figure with pale lavender skin and white hair worked frantically at a control panel. Unlike the panicked researchers fleeing around her, her movements were precise, deliberate. That's not one of my scientists. Frost hissed, ice crystals forming in the air around her. Goku's enhanced perception allowed him to see something else, a faint aura of temporal energy surrounding the mysterious woman. Similar to but distinct from his own. She's a time manipulator, he realized aloud. But different from me, more focused. Without waiting for Frost's response, Goku teleported directly into the chamber, materializing behind the lavender-skinned woman. Hey, whatever you're doing, it's tearing apart the timestream. The woman spun around, revealing youthful features that belied ancient eyes. She wore ornate clothing in shades of purple and gold, with a symbol on her chest that Goku's new knowledge identified as the mark of a supreme Kai, specifically, a Kai of time. She gasped, genuine shock breaking through her composed demeanor. That's impossible. The time dragon's essence can't be transferred to a mortal. Well, it just was, Goku replied, settling into a fighting stance. And I'm not letting you damage this universe. The woman's surprise turned to indignation. Damage? I'm trying to save it, you fool. This device was being used to punch holes between timelines. She gestured to the modifications she'd made to the control panel. I'm containing the damage. Frost appeared beside Goku, ice energy swirling dangerously around her fists. This facility is under Imperial protection. Identify yourself immediately. The woman drew herself up, dignity radiating from her diminutive form. I am Chronoa, Supreme Kai of Time from the 15th Temporal Plane. Or I was, until my position was apparently usurped. She glared at Goku. The Time Dragon was supposed to choose me as successor, not some random martial artist. Goku blinked, processing her words as new information surfaced from the Time Dragon's transferred memories. You're from an alternate timeline, he realized. One where you were being groomed as Kronos' replacement. Not just groomed. Promised. Chronoa snapped, pain flashing behind her anger. I trained for 10,000 years. I memorized every temporal law, monitored every divergence point, maintained the scrolls of eternity. She jabbed a finger toward Goku. And then Kronos chooses you. A Saiyan who can barely comprehend the responsibility he's been given. The sphere around them pulsed ominously, cutting off Frost's response. Chronoa turned back to the controls, muttering, argue later. This entire facility is about to implode into a time sink that could swallow half the quadrant. Despite her obvious resentment, Chronoa's hands moved with practiced skill across the alien controls. Goku could sense she was telling the truth about trying to contain the damage rather than causing it. What can we do? He asked, setting aside the tension between them. Chronoa shot him a surprised glance before replying, the containment field needs more power. Your raw temporal energy could stabilize it, but you'd need to channel it precisely. Precision isn't exactly my specialty, Goku admitted. I assumed as much, Chronoa replied dryly. Follow my instructions exactly. Frost moved to another console. My scientists designed these systems. I can reroute emergency power to support your efforts. The three worked in tense cooperation, Chronoa directing Goku to channel specific frequencies of tempora. L energy while Frost managed the facility's remaining functional systems. The chamber shuddered around them as competing time streams pulled at its physical structure. Now, Chronoa shouted as the displays reached critical levels. Goku thrust both hands toward the sphere's core, releasing a carefully modulated stream of golden energy. Frost simultaneously activated a series of crystalline amplifiers, while Chronoa performed complex manipulations that guided both their efforts into a cohesive force. The temporal distortion resisted, then collapsed in upon itself with a thunderous implosion. Air rushed to fill the vacuum left behind, nearly knocking them off their feet. As the dust settled, Chronoa examined the readouts with a critical eye. Contained, for now, but this was just a symptom of a much larger problem. She turned to face them, professional despite her earlier outburst. Someone is systematically attacking temporal nexus points across the multiverse. This facility was target D because researchers here accidentally accessed a vulnerable junction. The question is who, Frost said, brushing debris from her imperial armor. And why target my empire specifically? Not just your empire, Chronoa corrected. Similar attacks are occurring in at least 6 universes that I've detected. The pattern suggests a coordinated effort by someone with intimate knowledge of temporal mechanics. Goku absorbed this information, allowing the time dragon's transferred knowledge to help him process it. You called it a time sink. What exactly was happening here? Chronoa's expression turned grim. A time sink is a collapsed temporal node that begins consuming chronological energy from its surroundings. Essentially, it drains time itself. Those caught within its effect experience accelerated entropy, rapid aging, decay, and eventually complete molecular breakdown. A weapon, Frost concluded coldly. Someone is weaponizing time against living worlds. Yes, Chronoa agreed. And, based on the sophistication of these attacks, they'll only escalate. She glanced at Goku, reluctance clear in her expression. As much as it pains me to admit, we need to work together. You have the Time Dragon's raw power, while I have the training and knowledge to direct it effectively. Goku nodded, extending his hand in friendship. I'm still figuring all this out. I could use your help. Chronoa stared at the offered hand, conflict playing across her features before she finally took it with a resigned sigh. For the sake of the multiverse, not because I accept you as the rightful successor. Fair enough, Goku replied with a smile. Frost observed their interaction with calculating eyes. If my empire is at risk, I cannot stand aside. The United Worlds have resources that may prove valuable to your efforts. Research facilities, detection arrays, and warriors if combat becomes necessary. It will, Chronoa stated with certainty. Whoever is orchestrating these attacks won't stop with failed attempts. They'll. Her words cut off as all three of them felt it. A massive temporal disturbance erupting light years away, yet still within Universe 6. This wasn't a localized breach but a full rupture in the fabric of space-time. The Saiyan homeworld, Frost whispered, recognizing the coordinates in her mind's star charts. Goku's expression hardened, thoughts turning to the universe. 6 Saiyans he had met during the Tournament of Power. We need to go there now. Chronoa nodded. A rupture that size could destabilize the entire galactic quadrant. But we need a plan before. Shi-Wa-S interrupted as Goku placed his hands on both women's shoulders, his expression resolute. Plan on the way. Before either could protest, his enhanced temporal teleportation enveloped them, launching the trio into the timestream toward the endangered Saiyan world. As they traveled, Goku caught fragmentary visions in the temporal corridor, shadowy glimpses of a figure watching from between universes. Eyes gleaming with malicious satisfaction as reality fractured around him. The presence noticed Goku's awareness and recoiled, surprised to find itself observed. You're too late, Dragon, a voice hissed into Goku's consciousness. The convergence has already begun. Then they were through, materializing in the turbulent atmosphere above planet Sadala. What greeted them was chaos incarnate, the sky torn open by a massive temporal wound that poured contradictory timestreams onto the world below. In some areas, buildings aged and crumbled in seconds. In others, evolution ran backward as it vanked. Technology reverted to primitive components. Most disturbing were the effects on living beings. Goku watched in horror as Saiyans caught in the temporal tides experienced their entire lifespans in moments, birth to death in seconds. Or adults regressing to children, then infants, then simply ceasing to exist as their timeline reversed beyond their own conception. This is worse than I anticipated, Chronoa breathed. Genuine fear in her voice. This isn't just a rupture, it's a deliberate temporal unraveling. Frost's imperial composure cracked slightly as she witnessed the suffering below. Can we stop it? Goku's borrowed knowledge surged forth, combining with his warrior's instinct. Golden scales spread across his skin as he embraced the Time Dragon's power more fully than before. Not from out here. We need to reach the epicenter. Without waiting for agreement, he dove toward the heart of the distortion, a maelstrom of colliding timestreams near the planet's capital city. Chronoa cursed but followed, her smaller form nimble as she navigated the chaotic temporal currents. Frost kept pace, her natural affinity for cold allowing her to partially counteract the entropy effects around them. At the center of the chaos stood a device similar to the chronosphere they had just left, but twisted into a configuration that violated fundamental laws of physics. Surrounding it was a contingent of Saiyan warriors, fighting against the temporal effects to reach the device but being repelled by invisible barriers. Leading them was a female Saiyan whose power level dwarfed the others. Even as Goku watched, she transformed, her hair flashing green as her muscles expanded with the distinctive energy signature of the legendary Super Saiyan. Yet unlike Kale from the tournament, this IOR seemed in control of the berserker form, directing its destructive potential with precision. Kale, Goku muttered, confused by the differences from the shy girl he remembered. A variant, Chronoa explained quickly. This timeline's version evolved differently. Here, she's their queen. Kale unleashed a devastating energy blast against the temporal device, only to have it absorbed and reflected back, magnified tenfold. The blast caught her directly, sending her hurtling backward. Goku acted instinctively, teleporting to intercept her before she crashed into a mountainside. His arms closed around her waist, his own energy forming a buffer against the impact. Kale recovered instantly, breaking his grip with professional efficiency and spinning to face him in a combat stance. This Versio, N of Kale carried herself with the confidence of a seasoned fighter and leader, though her features remained recognizable beneath the network of ceremonial scars marking her royal status. Who are you? She demanded, green energy flaring around her fists. Another of the time thieves. I'm here to help, Goku replied, raising his hands peacefully. That device is tearing your world apart. I'm the new guardian of time. And these are my allies. He gestured to Chronoa and Frost, who had landed nearby. Kale's eyes narrowed, gaze lingering on Frost. The Ice Empire has never concerned itself with Saiyan affairs before. Her attention shifted to Chronoa. And the Time Kai has rejected our petitions for intervention for centuries. The situation has changed, Chronoa replied tensely. This attack threatens all universes. Not just planet Sadala. Kale seemed unconvinced until Goku allowed his temporal power to surface fully, golden scales covering his arms and face as his eyes took on their cosmic appearance. I'm Son Goku, but I've been chosen by the Time Dragon to prevent something called the Convergence. Whatever that device is doing, it's part of a larger plan to collapse all timelines. Something in his straightforward explanation reached Kale, and she lowered her guard slightly. My people are dying, being unborn, or worse, trapped in loops of their own deaths. Raw pain flicker, D across her features before royal discipline reasserted control. If you can stop this, I don't care what you call yourself. Together, the four approached the temporal device. Closer inspection Rev. Aled it was drawing power from the planet's core, using the natural energy of an entire world to fuel its reality warping effects. We need to disable it without triggering a cascading collapse, Chronoa analyzed. Her smaller form ducking beneath arcs of temporal energy. The configuration is unlike anything in standard chronological science. Frost studied the alien technology with calculating eyes. These components, some are from my Empire's Advanced Research Division. They were stolen in a raid 6 months ago. Others are from Universe 10, Chronoa added grimly. And these oscillators cool, D only have come from Universe 3's technology sector. Kale growled, her controlled berserker form pulsing with suppressed rage. While we identify parts, my people die. Can it be destroyed or not? Goku placed a hand on the device, using his temporal senses to trace its internal workings. Not destroyed, he concluded, but redirected. He looked to Chronoa. If we invert the flow, could we close the rupture? The Time Kai's eyes widened. Theoretically, yes, but the power requirements would be enormous, and the recalibration would need to be precise to picosecond tolerances. I can provide the power, Goku stated confidently. Can you handle the recalibration? Chronoa nodded reluctantly. If I had access to the control matrix. Which is inside that? Frost indicated the impenetrable field surrounding the device's core. Kale stepped forward, green energy intensifying around her. My legendary form can penetrate almost any barrier. Tell me where to strike. Working together, they formulated a plan. Kale would use her concentrated energy to create a momentary gap in the defensive field. Frost would use her ice powers to temporarily stabilize the device's overloading systems. Noah would recalibrate the controls to reverse the temporal flow. And Goku would channel his newly acquired powers into the device, providing the enormous energy needed while controlling the resulting temporal backlash. On my mark, Chronoa ordered, assuming her natural role as coordinator of temporal operations. 3, 2, 1, now. Kale unleashed her full power, her legendary Super Sai, and form reaching new heights as she poured everything into a precise strike at the barrier's weakest point. The field shuddered, then split open just enough for Frost to slide through. The Imperatrix immediately placed her hands on the overheating components, ice energy cooling the systems to manageable levels. Hurry, she called, strain evident in her voice. I cannot maintain this indefinitely. Chronoa darted inside, fingers flying across alien controls with practiced expertise. Recalibration at 30%, 60%, 85%. Outside the device, Goku gathered temporal energy. Golden scales now covering his entire body as he drew on power that could reshape reality itself. The sky darkened above him, cosmic forces responding to the concentration of chronological potential. Now, Goku, Chronoa shouted as her adjustments completed. Goku thrust both hands forward, channeling a stream of pure temporal energy into the device's core. The machine groaned, resisting the reversal of its purpose. But the combined efforts of all four gradually overwhelmed its programming. The rupture above began to shrink, the chaotic timestream slowly being drawn back into the breach rather than pouring out. Across planet Sadala, the temporal effects began to stabilize, buildings stopped aging, devolution ceased, and people found themselves locked into proper chronological progression once more. It's working, Kale exclaimed, maintaining her position despite obvious fatigue. But something's wrong, Frost observed, ice powers straining against increasing heat. The device is drawing too much power too quickly. Chronoa's expression turned alarmed. It's going to overload. We need to contain the temporal feedback or it will create an even larger rupture. Goku made a split-second decision, drawing on both his Saiyan power and his new temporal abilities. Everyone get back. I'll handle the feedback. You can't absorb that much temporal energy. Chronoa protested. Even with the Time Dragon's essence, it could tear you apart. Trust me, Goku replied with a confident smile that belied the danger. I've been absorbing energy people said would destroy me my whole life. Before anyone could argue further, he placed both hands directly on the device's core and began drawing the destabilized temporal energy into himself rather than letting it dissipate explosively. Pain unlike anything he had experienced before, worse even than the initial transformation, coursed through his body as contradictory timestreams fought for dominance within his cells. Goku roared, his voice echoing with temporal harmonics as he forced the chaotic energy into compliance through sheer willpower. His body flickered between different ages and states, child, adult, elder, and Ba. CK, before stabilizing as he gained control. With a final tremendous effort, he compressed the absorbed energy into a stable form within his core, using techniques adapted from key manipulation but IED to the fundamental forces of time itself. The rupture overhead sealed completely. The device powered down, its purpose thwarted. Goku collapsed to one knee, steam rising from his body as the X's energy dissipated harmlessly into the atmosphere. Chronoa reached him first, professional concern overriding personal resentment. That was either the bravest or most foolish thing I've ever witnessed, she muttered. Checking him for chronological fractures. Probably both, Goku replied with a weak laugh, his scales receding as he released the Time Dragon form. Frost and Kale approached more cautiously, both impressed despite themselves. My scientific council has studied temporal theory for centuries without achieving what you just did, Frost noted, a new respect in her voice. Kale said nothing at first, surveying her world as it stabilized around them. Saiyans were emerging from shelter, assessing damage and tending to the injured. Finally, she turned to Goku with the direct gaze of royalty. You saved my people when no one else could, she stated simply. The Saiyans of Universe 6 acknowledged this debt. Goku waved a hand dismissively as he struggled to his feet. No debt needed. It's kind of my job now, I guess. Chronoa's expression had turned troubled as she examined readings on a device materialized from her robes. This attack was more sophisticated than the others. Whoever orchestrated it knew exactly how to maximize damage to the time stream. She looked up gravely. And they're learning from each attempt. Who could possess such knowledge? Frost demanded. Even my empire's best scientists couldn't design something so destructive. Someone outside normal time, Chronoa theorized. An entity with a comprehensive understanding of temporal mechanics and a specific agenda. Goku's expression hardened as he recalled the presence he'd sensed during their transit. I felt someone watching us. He called it the convergence, and said we're too late to stop it. Chronoa paled visibly. If the convergence has truly begun. She shook her head. We need to establish a base of operations. Somewhere we can coordinate our response to these attacks. My palace has the most advanced temporal monitoring equipment in Universe 6, Frost offered. And security that would repel most threats. The Saiyan royal bunker goes deeper, Kale countered. Built to withstand planetary destruction. My scientists could adapt it for temporal defense. Chronoa shook her head. We need a position outside normal space-time, a nexus point where we can observe multiple universes simultaneously. She glanced reluctantly at Goku. As Time Dragon, you should be able to create such a space. Goku concentrated, drawing on the knowledge transferred from Chronos. I think I can. It would be like a pocket dimension between universes, anchored to the time stream but not bound by it. My scientists would value the opportunity to study such phenomena, Frost noted, the Imperial Administrator never far beneath her warrior exterior. Kale folded her arms across her armored chest. If these attacks continue, my people need representation in any response. As queen, that duty falls to me. Goku looked between the three powerful women, each with different motivations, different strengths, and different perspectives on the crisis unfolding around them. Something in his new understanding of time and possibility told him their convergence was no accident, that these specific individuals from different universes had roles to play in the coming conflict. We'll need all of you, he decided. Whatever this convergence is, it's bigger than any one universe or timeline. Chronoa has the knowledge, Frost has the resources, Kale has the warriors, and he examined his hand, where golden scales briefly shimmered beneath his skin. I guess I have the power. Together, we might actually have a chance. The sky above planet Sadala had cleared, stars once again visible in their proper positions. But to Goku's enhanced senses, the temporal scars remained, evidence of damage that extended beyond the visible universe into the fabric of time itself. Somewhere across the multiverse, he could feel more ruptures forming, more attacks being prepared, and behind them all, the shadowy presence watched, its patience spanning eons, its plan unfolding across dimensions. Goku clenched his fist, determination rising within him. He had never backed down from a fight, no matter how overwhelming the odds. And now, with the fate of all reality at stake, that stubborn Saiyan spirit would be needed more than ever. Let's get started, he said simply, as golden light began to gather around his outstretched hand, tearing open a pathway between universes that would lead them to their next battle in the war for time itself. Chapter 2. Convergence. Chronoa's diminutive form drifted cross-legged above the temporal nexus, eyes closed in concentration. Wrong again. You're thinking in linear pathways when time is actually a web of interconnected possibilities. I know, Goku interrupted, frustration evident in his voice. 3 days had passed since he'd created their sanctuary bedway. N dimensions, a crystalline fortress suspended in the void between universes, anchored to no particular timeline yet connected to all. But when I try to see all those connections at once, everything gets blurry. The Time Kai sighed, violet eyes opening to fix him with a pointed stare. That's because you're still perceiving with Saiyan senses. The Time Dragon's essence grants you capabilities beyond mortal limitations. But you must abandon your instinctual frameworks. Frost, who had been observing from a nearby platform of translucent crystal, raised an elegant eyebrow. Perhaps the approach is flawed, not the student. The Imperatrix had exchanged her formal regalia for a more practical bodysuit of silvery material, though her imperial bearing remained unchanged. Son Goku is, by nature, kinesthetic rather than theoretical. Abstract concepts without practical application will never resonate. Chronoa bristled. Temporal navigation isn't something you can master through muscle memory and battle instinct. There are precise calculations, which the Time Dragon's essence can perform automatically, Frost countered, if properly integrated with his existing abilities rather than treated as a separate system. Goku glanced between them, sensing another philosophical clash brewing. The past 3 days had established a pattern. Chronoa insisted on traditional methods developed over millennia of chronal theory, while Frost advocated pragmatic adaptations based on results rather than precedent. Both approaches had merit, yet neither fully addressed the challenge of merging cosmic power with Saiyan instinct. He closed his eyes again, tuning out their debate to focus inward. The golden energy of the Time Dragon coursed through his being, no longer foreign but not yet fully integrated. When he fought or faced immediate danger, the power responded intuitively. It was the controlled application, the delicate manipulation of temporal currents, that proved elusive. What am I missing? Goku wondered. As if responding to his question, fragments of the Time Dragon's memories surfaced in his consciousness, not as concrete knowledge but as sensations, impressions of how Chronos had perceived reality. The multiverse wasn't something to be observed externally but experienced internally, each universe a distinct rhythm in an endless symphony of existence. Goku's eyes snapped open. It's like sensing ki, he announced, interrupting the increasingly heated discussion. Both women turned toward him, expressions quizzical. When I learned to sense life energy, I didn't study math. Hematical models or memorize frequency patterns, Goku explained, excitement building as the concept solidified. I felt it, the unique signature of each living being, how it resonates with everything around it. He rose to his feet, golden scales shimmering briefly beneath his skin as he extended his awareness outward. Time has the same kind of signature. Each universe has its own temporal rhythm, its own flow pattern. Chronoa opened her mouth to object, then paused, reconsidering. That's not entirely incorrect, she admitted reluctantly. The ancient texts do refer to the heartbeat of individual timelines. Theory and practice converge at last, Frost observed with the faintest hint of satisfaction. Goku wasn't listening anymore. His consciousness expanded beyond the sanctuary, surfing currents of possibility. Unlike previous attempts that had overwhelmed his senses with infinite data points, this approach allowed him to experience the multiverse as a living entity, countless temporal pulses forming a coherent whole. I can feel them, he whispered. All the universes, all the timelines. They're like rivers flowing into each other, separating, rejoining. And he stiffened suddenly, expression darkening. What is it? Chronoa demanded, professional concern overriding her usual condescension. Universe 6. The Saiyan homeworld. Goku's eyes opened, now swirling with cosmic energy. Something's wrong with its timestream. Parts are accelerating while others are nearly frozen. Frost moved to the crystalline console she'd helped design, interfacing with temporal monitoring equipment. Confirmed. Massive chronological distortion centered on planet Sadala. Pattern differs from previous attacks. This appears to be selective temporal manipulation rather than broad disruption. Kale, Goku said simply. They hadn't heard from the Saiyan Queen since she'd returned to her planet 3 days earlier, insisting on overseeing recovery efforts personally. She had accepted a temporal communicator but had yet to use it. Prepare for transit, Chronoa ordered, summoning her time staff with a gesture. If this is another assault by our mysterious adversary. It is, Goku interrupted with grim certainty. I can feel the same presence behind it. He didn't wait for further discussion, golden energy already spiraling around his form as he opened a temporal corridor. Frost, coordinate from here. Chronoa and I will assess the situation. The Imperatrix nodded, accepting the tactical division of labor with a ruler's pragmatism. I'll monitor for similar disruptions across other universes. Be cautious. These attacks have grown more sophisticated with each iteration. Goku stepped into the swirling portal, Chronoa following close behind. The journey between dimensions had become smoother with practice, though the sensation of reality folding around them remained disconcerting. As they traversed the void, fragmented visions flickered at the edges of perception, possible futures, alternate pasts. Roads not taken. One image snagged Goku's attention. A dark figure seated upon a throne of crystallized time, countless threads of fate woven between his fingers. The entity raised its head slowly, as if sensing observation, and smiled, a cold expression promising inevitability. "You see him too," Chronoa whispered, her usual imperious tone replaced with something close to fear. "Who is he?" Goku asked as reality solidified around them, depositing them in the atmosphere above planet Sadala. The Time Kai's response died on her lips as they beheld the chaos below. The Saiyan capital, a brutalist arrangement of obsidian towers and battle arenas that had been damaged but intact during their previous visit, now existed in multiple temporal states simultaneously. Western districts gleamed with futuristic architecture that hadn't yet been constructed, while eastern sectors crumbled into ancient ruins. Most disturbing were the central governmental complexes where buildings flickered between states, never settling into a stable timeframe. Selective temporal acceleration, Chronoa analyzed, professional detachment masking her alarm. Someone has divided the planetary timestream into discrete zones, each operating at different velocities. Goku scanned for power signatures, easily locating the concentrated energy at the heart of the disturbance. There, the royal bunker. He teleported them without warning, materializing in a vast underground chamber carved from living bedrock. The scene that greeted them defied comprehension. Hundreds of Saiyans stood frozen like statues, caught in a time-stopped bubble that encompassed most of the facility. Only the central command area remained active, where a small group fought desperately against the encroaching stasis effect. At their center stood Kale, her legendary form pulsing with unstable energy as she generated a field of pure force around her remaining active fighters. Sweat poured down her face, muscles trembling with exertion as she held back the temporal freezing through sheer power and determination. "Can't hold it much longer," she growled through clenched teeth. Goku moved instantly, golden scales blooming across his skin as he channeled temporal energy into a counter wave that pushed back against the stasis field. Chronoa synchronized her efforts with his, her staff pulsing with ancient power as she established a stable pocket of normal time flow around them. "What happened?" Goku demanded as the immediate crisis stabilized. Kale dropped to one knee, her legendary form flickering as exhaustion took its toll. Unlike their previous encounter, where she had maintained complete control, now her power fluctuated wildly, the emotional strain breaking through her disciplined facade. Attacked from within, she managed between heaving breaths. Temporal weapons, planted throughout the city, activated simultaneously, her fierce eyes raised to meet Goku's. "My people," trapped in suspended animation. The effect spreads with each passing hour. One of her remaining officers, a scarred veteran with a commander's insignia, approached with military precision despite the chaos. "Majesty." Sensors detect additional anomalies forming in the outlying provinces. "The effect is metastasizing," Chronoa confirmed grimly, consulting readings from her staff. "This isn't Saint an attack, it's a systematic temporal conquest. If the pattern continues, the entire planet will be frozen in time within 24 hours. Kale surged to her feet, anger temporarily overcoming exhaustion. "I will not lose my world." Her aura flared, the legendary power responding to her emotions. "My ancestors fought too hard, sacrificed too much to build this civilization. I won't be the queen who fails to protect it." Goku placed a hand on her armored shoulder, his touch gentle despite the power thrumming beneath his skin. "And you won't. But fighting harder isn't the answer here, we need to fight smarter." The Saiyan Queen stiffened at his touch, then gradually relaxed as reason reasserted itself over battle instinct. "What do you propose, Time Dragon?" "First, we find the source," Goku replied, closing his eyes to extend his temporal senses throughout the planet. "These aren't isolated attacks, they're all connected to a central point, drawing power from the same source." Chronoa's eyes widened in realization. Of course, these devices aren't generating the temporal effect, they're channeling it from elsewhere. She joined her awareness with Goku's, their combined temporal NSES tracing the invisible connections between distortion points. There, they said simultaneously, identifying a nexus buried deep beneath the planet's northern magnetic pole. That's the ancient vault, Kale's commander informed them. Repository of Saiyan artifacts from before our technological age. Legends claim it contains relics with mystical properties. Chronoa's expression darkened. No legend. Historical fact. Planet Sadala in Universe 6 was once visited by temporal entities during your pre-industrial period. They left behind objects infused with chronological energy as gifts, or perhaps as experiments. And now someone's activated them, Goku concluded. Using your ancestors' relics to attack their descendants. Kale's eyes narrowed dangerously. Then we reclaim what is ours. She turned to her commander. Assemble the royal guard. Any who remain unfrozen. We strike at the vault immediately. Wait, Chronoa cautioned. A direct assault could trigger fail-safes, accelerating the temporal freezing. We need precision, not brute force. For a moment, it seemed the Saiyan Queen might ignore the warning, her legendary power responding to her desire for immediate action. But, years of leadership had tempered her berserker nature with tactical wisdom. What do you suggest? She asked, the question directed at both time wielders but her gaze fixed on Goku. Before either could respond, a communication crystal on the command console pulsed with urgent light. The commander activated it, revealing Frost's regal visage projected in crystalline detail. The temporal disturbance has a dimensional signature. The Imperatrix reported without preamble. I've identified the origin point, not on planet Sadala itself but bleeding through from an adjacent reality. The Demon Realm F Universe 6 is experiencing a reciprocal effect, with time nearly frozen while yours accelerates. The Demon Realm. Kale's expression hardened. We've had a non-aggression pact with them for generations. Why would they attack now? Perhaps they didn't, Frost suggested. My analysis indicates both realms are being manipulated by an external force, creating a temporal siphon between dimensions. Chronoa nodded, the theory aligning with her own observations. Someone is harvesting chronological energy, using the natural dimensional barrier between realms as a filtration mechanism. Goku absorbed this information, the time dragon's knowledge helping him process concepts that would have been incomprehensible to him just days ago. So we need to address both sides of the equation, Planet S. Adala and the Demon Realm simultaneously. A coordinated two-front response, Kale agreed, military strategy overriding her initial anger. My forces can secure the vault while you investigate the Demon Realm. Goku shook his head. Not without you. Your legendary power might be crucial in stabilizing the connection once we find it. And, he added with characteristic directness, I've seen what happens when Saiyans let anger cloud their judgment. Your people need you thinking clearly, not charging into battle. The Queen bristled visibly, green energy crackling around her clenched fists. For a tense moment, her berserker nature warred with her rational mind. Then, surprisingly, she laughed, a short, sharp sound that nonetheless eased the tension in the command center. You have the opposite. Why to lecture a Saiyan Queen about controlling her power? Kale's eyes held a grudging respect. Perhaps there's more to you than raw strength and good intentions, Time Dragon. She turned to her commander. Establish a defensive perimeter around the stasis field's edge. Delay its expansion by any means necessary. I will accompany our allies to the Demon Realm. Frost's projection nodded approvingly. A wise decision, Your Majesty. I've prepared dimensional coordinates for your transition. Be advised. My intelligence network indicates the Demon Realm has undergone significant changes in recent years under its new ruler. New ruler? Chronoa questioned sharply. Taoa of House Makai, Frost replied. A scientific prodigy who overthrew the previous regime and instituted sweeping reforms. Repo. RTS suggests she's transformed their society from chaos-worshipping marauders into a sophisticated civilization, though one should never fully trust a demon's apparent evolution. Goku filed this information away as he prepared to open a dimensional corridor. The name Taoa stirred fragmented memories from the Time Dragon's consciousness, echoes of alternate timelines where a demon scientist had manipulated history for her own ends. But if this universe's version had reformed her realm, everyone ready? He asked, golden energy already swirling around his outstretched hand. Kale checked her armo. R's integrity and activated the energy gauntlets built into her vambraces, technology that helped her channel her legendary power with greater precision. Ready. Chronoa positioned herself beside them, staff at the ready. The demon realm exists partially outside normal time. Be prepared for chronological dissonance upon arrival. With a decisive gesture, Goku tore open the dimensional barrier. Like the smooth portals between universes, this aperture shimmered with unstable energy, the boundary between mortal realm and demon dimension resisting direct connection. Now, he commanded, and the three plunged into swirling darkness. The transition proved more turbulent than anticipated. Reality twisted around them, subjecting each to fragmentary visions drawn from their own timelines, paths not taken, choices unmade. Potential futures both glorious and terrible. Goku glimpsed himself as he might have been. A ruthless conqueror who never bumped his head as a child. A fallen warrior consumed by the power he sought to master. A peaceful farmer who never rediscovered his fighting spirit. Each possibility felt simultaneously alien and familiar, reminding him that identity itself was a choice continuously made. When reality finally reasserted itself, they stood upon a crystalline platform overlooking a vista that defied expectation. The demon realm of popular imagination, a hellscape of fire and torment, had been replaced by a geometrically perfect city of obsidian towers and emerald energy conduits. Angular architecture housed research facilities and cultural centers rather than torture chambers. The very air hummed with sophisticated magical technology. Most striking was the central structure, a massive floating citadel shaped like a 16-pointed star, each facet housing a different scientific or arcane department. At its heart pulsed a column of deep violet energy that extended into the crimson sky above. "This is not the demon realm I remember," Chronoa murmured, genuine surprise breaking through her composed exterior. Demon society evolving beyond its chaotic origins, Kale observed with professional assessment. Much like Saiyans outgrowing our destructive impulses. Before Goku could respond, the platform beneath them illuminated with concentric circles of arcane script. A holographic projection materialized before them, the image of a striking woman with pale blue skin, flowing white hair, and eyes that gleamed with intelligence. Her attire combined scientific practicality with aristocratic elegance, and a staff of advanced design hovered at her side. "Interesting," the projection remarked in a cultured voice that managed to convey both curiosity and caution. A Saiyan monarch, a temporal deity, and, her gaze lingered on Goku, head tilting slightly, something unprecedented. "Not the visitors I was expecting during our current crisis. You know who we are?" Chronoa demanded. The hologram smiled thinly. "I am Tao of House Makai, supreme scientist and reformer of the demon realm. Information is both my passion and my power." The projection gestured gracefully. "You stand in a reality-locked observation bay. Please remain there while secure. ITY protocols verify you aren't temporal phantoms or interdimensional imposters." Kale stepped forward, patience visibly thinning. "My world is freezing in time while yours stands still. We have no time for protocols." On the contrary, Tao's projection replied evenly, "Time is precisely what's at stake." The chronological disruption affecting both our realms began exactly 73 hours ago. My ISTs have been working continuously to contain the effect, but conventional methods prove inadequate against unconventional attack. Goku studied the hologram, sensing something familiar in the demon woman's energy signature despite never having met her. "You're expecting us," he realized aloud. "Or someone like us." The projection smiled more genuinely. "Perceptive. Yes, our probability models dictated intervention by a temporal authority once the disruption reached critical levels. Though I admit, the specific composition of your group defies standard prediction matrices." Her gaze returned to Goku. "Particularly you, with your curious mixture of mortal and cosmic energies." "I'm Son Goku. I've been chosen by the Time Dragon to protect the multiverse," he explained simply. "We believe S-01 is creating a temporal siphon between your realm and planet Sadala, harvesting chronological energy for some larger purpose." Tao's projected image flickered momentarily. "My conclusion exactly. The verification process is complete. You are indeed who you appear to be. Please proceed to the central lift. I'll meet you in the chronometric research division." The platform beneath them transfo RMED into an elevator that ascended toward the star-shaped citadel. As they rose above the demon metropolis, the true scale of temporal disruption became apparent. Sections of the city existed in perfect stasis, citizens frozen mid-step. Vehicles suspended in transit, even energy beams halted mid-projection. Other areas moved at drastically reduced rates, figures advancing in slow motion as if struggling through invisible resistance. "Your people," Kale observed, a newfound respect in her voice. "They suffer as mine do, though in reverse." "Yes," Tawa confirmed, her actual form waiting as the elevator docked with the Citadel's research level. In person, she projected an aura of controlled power beneath her scientific demeanor. "While your world experiences temporal acceleration, ours undergoes deceleration approaching absolute zero. The two effects are mathematically balanced. Energy removed from one realm appears to be transferred to the other." Chronoa stepped forward, professional int. Urist temporarily overriding her usual suspicion of demons. "You've modeled the transfer mathematically. May I see your equations?" Tao gestured to a hovering display where complex formulae spiraled in 3 dimensions. "The relationship is precise to 17 decimal places, too perfect to be natural. Someone with intimate knowledge of temporal mechanics has engineered this disruption." While Ronoa and Tawa engaged in technical discussion, Goku moved to a viewport overlooking a massive laboratory where demon scientists worked at chronometric equipment. At the chamber's center stood a IAR site, a temporal device nearly identical to those they had encountered on planet Sadala and in Frost's empire. "That's it," he stated with certainty. "The other end of the connection." Kale joined him at the viewport, her enhanced vision focusing on the device. "Similar design to what attacked my world, but significantly larger. Because it's not just a receiver but a converter," Tawa explained, moving smoothly to their side. "The devices on your world extract raw chronological energy, which is then transmitted here for refinement into usable form." "Usable for what purpose?" Goku asked, instinctively distrusting the setup despite Tawa's apparent cooperation. The demon scientist met his gaze directly. "That remains uncertain. My team intercepted the device when it materialized in our primary time well 3 days ago. We've been studying it rather than destroying it, hoping to trace its origin." She hesitated, then added, "And because preliminary analysis suggested destruction might trigger catastrophic temporal backlash." Chronoa's expression darkened. "She's right. These devices are quantum entangled. Destroying one without properly severing the connection could collapse the time stream in both realms simultaneously. Then we sever the connection," Kale stated with characteristic directness. "Find the link and cut it." Tawa nodded appreciatively at the Saiyan's approach. "Precisely our intention. However, the connection exists partially outside conventional spacetime, making it difficult to isolate." She turned to Goku. "But perhaps a being with the Time Dragon's NCE could perceive what our instruments cannot." Goku considered this, sensing no deception in Tawa's request. "I can try, but I'll need to get closer to the device." The demon scientist led them through security checkpoints to the main laboratory. Up close, the temporal device proved even more ominous, a metallic sphere surrounded by rotating rings inscribed with symbols from a language so ancient even Chronoa seemed unfamiliar with it. The sphere pulsed with energy that flowed inward rather than outward, as if constantly hungry. "It's absorbing time itself," Goku observed, golden scales shimmering beneath his skin as he extended his temporal senses toward the device. "And the energy isn't just flowing from your realm to Sadala. It's being channeled elsewhere, outward." His consciousness followed the flow, tracing invisible connections through the dimensional barriers. The path led not to another universe but to a place between universes, a void where conventional physics surrendered to abstract possibility. Suddenly, something seized his projected awareness, a presence vast and cold, ancient beyond reckoning. It regarded Goku's intrusion with amused interest, like a chess master. Acknowledging an unexpected but ultimately futile move. "The new Time Dragon," a voice reverberated through Goku's mind. "So young, so limited in your understanding. You perceive fragments while I orchestrate the whole." Goku pushed harder, trying to identify the entity. "Who are you? Why are you attacking these worlds?" Laughter echoed across dimensional barriers. "Attack? No. Preparation. Everything that exists is but raw material for what must come. The convergence approaches, reality's final iteration. Images flooded Goku's consciousness, countless timelines collapsing into a single perfect stream. Infinite possibilities distilled to one ideal sequence, a universe without chaos or chance or change. At its center sat the dark figure from his earlier vision, now revealed as a humanoid being of indeterminate species. His form composed of crystallized time. Tempus Null, Goku whispered, the name rising from the time dragon's transferred memories. Once I had another name, the entity acknowledged. In another existence. Before I witnessed the ultimate truth. The multiverse is fundamentally flawed, an error in creation's design. Infinite possibilities mean infinite suffering, infinite waste. I will correct this cosmic mistake. With sudden violence, Tempus Null severed the connection, hurling Goku's consciousness back into his physical form with such force that he staggered backward. He would have fallen if not for Kale's quick reflexes, her strong hands steadying him. What happened? Chronoa demanded, sensing the disruption. I found the connection, Goku explained, the Scion still swimming with afterimages of collapsing timelines. And I met the one responsible. He calls himself Tempus Null, a being from outside normal time who believes the multiverse itself is a mistake that needs correcting. Tao's scientific detachment faltered slightly. A temporal nihilist. Such philosophical extremism is rare even among demons. Not nihilism, Goku corrected, sorting through the impressions left in his mind. He doesn't want to destroy everything, he wants to perfect it. Collapse all possible timelines into a single, correct, version of reality. Chronoa paled visibly. The convergence. It's not just a theory, he's actively attempting it. She turned to Tawa with uncharacteristic urgency. We need to sever the connection between these devices immediately. The longer they operate, the more chronological energy he harvests for his ultimate plan. The demon scientist nodded sharply, professional focus returning. My team has developed a potential solution, a chronom. Trick pulse calibrated to disrupt quantum entanglement without triggering collapse. However, she added with scientific precision, the calculations indicate we need a temporal amplifier to ensure simultaneous disruption across both realms. Quote, an amplifier? Kale questioned. A being capable of existing at multiple points in the timestream simultaneously, Tawa clarified, gaze shifting to Goku. Song. E1 with the time dragon's unique relationship to chronological constants. Goku understood immediately. I need to be in both places at once, here and on Sadala. Impossible, Chronoa objected, even with the time dragon's essence. Billicating across dimensional boundaries would tear apart a physical form. Unless, Tawa interjected, we leverage quantum entanglement itself. The same principle Hat connects these devices could temporarily connect aspects of a single consciousness. Kale folded her arms, skepticism evident. You propose splitting him in two. Not physically, Tawa corrected. Temporally. One body, two simultaneous positions in space-time, connected by entangled consciousness. She turned to Goku. It would be extraordinarily painful and dangerous, even fatal for most beings. Goku's expression said in familiar determination. Pain I can handle, and risk comes with the territory. He looked to Chronoa. Can it work? The Time Kai hesitated, clearly uncomfortable with the experimental procedure but unable to offer a better alternative. Theoretically, yes, but the strain on your chronological coherence would be extreme. If your consciousness fragments during the process, I'll hold myself together, Goku promised with characteristic confidence. Let's do this. Preparations proceeded with methodical urgency. Tao's scientists calibrated equipment while Establish Hing secure communication with the Saiyan forces guarding the vault on planet Sadala. Chronoa worked with Tao on the precise temporal mathematics required, their professional rivalry temporarily set aside in the face of greater threat. Kale approached Goku as he meditated, preparing his body and mind for the coming strain. Your willingness to risk yourself for my people, she began, uncharacteristic uncertainty in her voice, it's not what I expected. Goku opened his eyes, smiling slightly. What did you expect? Gods typically demand sacrifice rather than offering it themselves, she replied candidly. Especially for races as problematic as Saiyans. I'm not a god, Goku shrugged. Just someone with power and a job to do. He studied her thoughtfully. You know something about that, carrying responsibility you never asked for. The Saiyan Queen's perpetually stern expression softened marginally. The legendary form was considered a curse for generations. Those who manifested it became berserkers. Dangers to their own people. I was the first to achieve partial control, and for that, they made me queen. A hint of bitterness crept into her voice. As if power automatically confers wisdom. It doesn't, Goku agreed. But caring about your people the way you obviously do, that counts for a lot more than perfect control. He grinned suddenly. Besides, I know something out struggling with transformations that have a mind of their own. Before Kale could respond, Tao approached, her scientific demeanor unable to completely mask her concern. We're ready. The quantum entanglement chamber has been calibrated, and your forces on Sadala stand ready at the vault. Goku nodded, rising to his feet with determined grace. Let's finish this. The entanglement chamber resembled a crystalline coffin surrounded by arcane machinery. As Goku positioned himself inside, Tao explained the procedure one final time. When activated, the chamber will create a temporal duplicate of your consciousness at the coordinates on planet Sadala. You will perceive and act in both locations simultaneously. The disorientation will be significant. Her professional tone softened slightly. Focus on a fixed point in your identity, something uniquely and essentially you, to maintain coherence across the divide. Chronoa added her own caution. Remember, disrupting the connection is only the first step. Once severed, the accumulated temporal energy will discharge explosively unless properly grounded. You'll need to channel it safely in both locations. Kale placed a hand on Goku's shoulder. The gesture brief but meaningful. My forces will support your effort on Sadala. Fight well, Time Dragon. With that, she stepped back, martial discipline reasserting itself. Goku settled into the chamber as its crystal surface sealed around him. He closed his eyes, centering himself as he had before countless battles. The machine hummed to life, energy building to a crescendo around him. Pain erupted through his nervous system as his consciousness was violently bifurcated. Suddenly he existed in two places, perceiving two different environments through the same awareness. In the demon realm, he remained within the crystal chamber. On planet Sadala, he stood within the ancient vault surrounded by Kale's warriors. The cognitive dissonance was overwhelming, reality fragmenting as his mind struggled to process contradictory sensory information. Focus. Chronoa's voice reached him across both locations. Find your anchor point. Goku struggled through the chaos, seeking something fundamental to ground his splintering awareness. Not his name, he'd had many names across multiple lives. Not his body, it had transformed too many times. What remained constant through all his changes, all his battles, all his growth? The thrill of pushing limits. The joy of protecting others. The hunger to grow stronger not for power's sake but for the pure challenge of self-improvement. These or aspects of his being crystallized into a singular focus point, allowing his divided consciousness to stabilize across the dimensional gap. Golden scales manifested on both his forms as he drew on the Time Dragon's power, creating a visual bridge between his dual existences. Connection stable, Tower reported, monitoring fluctuating readings. Initiating disruption sequence. In both locations, the temporal devices activated simultaneously, rings spinning with increasing velocity as they prepared to channel their accumulated energy to Tempest Null's collection point in the void. Goku placed his hands on both devices, feeling the chronological power surging beneath their metallic surfaces. Now, Tao and Chronoa commanded in unison. Goku channeled disruptive energy through both points of contact. Golden light spreading from his palms into the devices' core systems. The carefully calibrated frequency attacked the quantum entanglement itself, severing the connection between dimensions, while maintaining the structural integrity of both machines. The effect was immediate and violent. Freed from their controlled channel, waves of temporal energy rebounded chaotically, threatening to tear apart the surrounding spaces. In the demon realm, time accelerated explosively, equipment aging decades in seconds, organic materials withering instantly. On Sadala, the opposite occurred, a bubble of absolute stasis expanding outward from the vault, threatening to freeze everything it touched. The discharge is too powerful. Chronoa shouted over the temporal maelstrom. You need to ground it before it destabilizes both realms completely. Through his divided consciousness, Goku understood what must be done. Drawing on both Saiyan power and Time Dragon essence, he transformed himself into a conduit, absorbing the raw chronological energy into his dual forms rather than allowing it to ravage the surrounding environments. Power beyond imagining flooded through him, pure, unfiltered time for CE never meant for containment within a physical form, even one enhanced by cosmic essence. His body in both locations began to fracture, golden light spilling from widening cracks in his skin as the energy sought release. He can't contain it. Tao's scientific certainty gave way to genuine alarm. The chronological pressure will shatter his temporal coherence. On Sadala, the Saiyan warriors CKED away as Goku's form began to emit blinding radiance. In the demon realm, warning systems blared as power readings exceeded measurable parameters. Through the agony of imminent dissolution, Goku perceived a solution, not through resistance but redirection. If he couldn't contain the energy, perhaps he could return it to its natural flow. Summoning his remaining strength, he directed the power upward in both locations, creating twin pillars of golden light that pierced dimensional barriers. The columns of temporal energy shot toward the void between universes, not toward Tempest Null's collection point, but into the unstructured possibility space that formed the multiverse's foundation. As the energy dissipated into the dimensional substrate, the immediate crisis abated. The devices, drained of their accumulated power, collapsed into inert husks. Goku's divided consciousness began to reintegrate, his awareness pulling back from planet Sadala to center wholly in the demon realm. When the process completed, he lay gasping on the laboratory floor, steam rising from his body as residual temporal energy dissipated. Tao knelt beside him, scientific curiosity and genuine concern warring in her expression as she monitored his condition with a handheld device. "Remarkable resilience," she murmured. "Your chronological coherence is already restabilizing. Most beings would have been reduced to quantum particles." Chrono joined them, professional assessment not quite masking her relief. "The connection has been severed successfully. Both realms should begin returning to normal temporal progression within hours." Goku sat up slowly, muscles protesting the metaphysical strain they had endured. Did it work? Is the threat contained? A communication crystal flared to life nearby, projecting Kale's image. Unlike her usual composed demeanor, the Saiyan Queen appeared genuinely impressed. "The stasis effect is already receding. My scientists report normal temporal flow returning to affected areas. Whatever you did, Time Dragon, it worked." Relief washed through Goku, though it was tempered by deeper awareness. "We've stopped this attack, but Tempest Null is still out there." This was just one part of his larger plan. "At least we've cost him a significant amount of harvested energy," Tao noted, consulting her instruments. "The chronological power you redirected would have fueled a substantial portion of his convergence effort." Chrono nodded in agreement. "We've bought time, if nothing else." And she stopped abruptly, head tilting as if listening to something beyond normal perception. Something's happening. A dimensional reaction to the energy redistribution. Before anyone could respond, reality shuddered around them. The laboratory's walls seemed to become temporarily transparent, revealing the void between universes. Within that emptiness, something moved, a rippling disturbance approaching their location with deliberate intent. "We've attracted attention," Tao observed, scientific curiosity momentarily overriding caution. The disturbance coalesced into a localized breach in dimensional barriers, not an attack but a controlled opening. Through this Chure stepped a figure unlike any they had encountered before. She appeared humanoid in basic form, but her substance seemed composed of void matter, skin like the night sky between stars, hair flowing like cosmic nebulae, eyes containing the depth of interstellar space. Her attire combined elements of armor and formal regalia, constructed from materials that shifted between states of matter with each movement. "Fascinating," the newcomer remarked, her voice resonating on multiple harmonic frequencies simultaneously. "The multiverse continues to surprise even after eons of observation." Chronoa stepped forward, recognition and wariness mingling in her stance. "Sovereign Zella, we didn't expect intervention from the Void Kingdom. Circumstances demand exception to standard non-interference protocols," the Void being replied, her attention focusing on Goku. "Particularly when a new time dragon redirects significant chronological discharge into my realm." Goku pulled himself to his feet. NSING immense power carefully controlled within the visitor's otherworldly form. Your realm. You're from the void between universes. I am Zella, sovereign of the Void Kingdom, the dimensional buffer that exists between your universes. Her expression remained unreadable, but something like curiosity colored her tone. My domain absorbs residual energies and maintains separation between realities that were never meant to directly interact. Until recently, this system functioned perfectly. Until Tempest Null began his convergence efforts, Chronoa surmised. Zella inclined her head in acknowledgement. The entity you name Tempest Null seeks to collapse all dimensional barriers, a process that begins by weakening the Void Kingdom's structural integrity. The energy he has harvested already has created dangerous thinning between dimensional walls. Taoa approached cautiously, scientific interest evident. The void between universes is inhabited. Our theoretical models never suggested conscious civilization could develop in non-space. Your models are limited by your experiential framework, Zella replied without condescension. The void contains its own physics, its own life forms, its own civilizations, all existing in symbiotic relationship with your dimensional cluster. She turned her cosmic gaze back to Goku. You interest me, Time Dragon. Your solution to the temporal overflow show wed unusual insight, returning excess chronological energy to the void rather than attempting to destroy or contain it. Such harmony with multiversal principles is rare among beings from material dimensions. Goku rubbed the back of his neck, slightly uncomfortable under her penetrating stare. I just did what felt right. The energy needed somewhere to go that wouldn't hurt anyone. Intuitive understanding of cosmic balance. Zella noted with approval. Perhaps Chronos chose better than initial appearances suggested. She extended a hand, void matter rippling around her fingers. I propose alliance. Tempest Null threatens all our realms equally, and your group has demonstrated both the will and capability to oppose him. Chronoa stepped forward, diplomatic caution in her posture. The Void Kingdom has traditionally maintained strict neutrality in multiversal affairs. What changed? Sovereign Zella. Neutrality serves no purpose when existence itself is threatened, the Void Being replied simply. The convergence would not merely reorganize your universes, it would eliminate the void between them, erasing my entire civilization as if we never existed. Understanding dawned on Goku. You're not just fighting for cosmic balance. You're protecting your people. Something like appreciation flickered in Zella's starry eyes. Yes, as you protect yours, Time Dragon. Different methods, different domains. But fundamentally the same purpose. A communication alert chimed before anyone could respond. Frost's image appeared, her imperial composure strained by evident concern. Multiple temporal breaches detected across 17 universes simultaneously, she reported without preamble. Pattern suggests coordinated assault on major nexus points. Something has accelerated Tempest Null's timetable. Zella's expression darkened. He sensed the energy redirection. My intelligence network reports unusual activity in the dimensional periphery, forces gathering for what appears to be a decisive strike. He's making his final move. Chronoa realized aloud. The previous attacks were preparation, tests and energy collection. Now he implements the convergence itself. Kale's projection joined the conversation. Her warriors visible behind her preparing for battle. My forces stand ready to defend our dimension. Direct us to the point of greatest need. Goku absorbed these developments, feeling the weight of the Time Dragon's responsibility settling more fully upon his shoulders. Individual worlds, entire universes, even the void between realities, all now looked to him for leadership. Ain't a threat beyond conventional understanding. He studied the assembled allies. Chronoa with her temporal expertise, Frost with her strategic mind, Kale with her warrior's heart, Taoa with her scientific brilliance. And now Zella with her interdimensional perspective. Different beings from different realms, united by common purpose. We need to coordinate our response, he decided, natural leadership emerging without pretension. Tempest Null wants to divide our attention across multiple fronts. Instead, we identify his primary target and concentrate our forces there. The nexus of all realities. Zella and Chronoa said simultaneously. The dimensional focal point where all universes connect, Chronoa explained. If Tempest Null can control that location, he can implement the convergence throughout the multiverse simultaneously. Quote, Tao's scientific mind quickly grasped the implications. A single point of failure for all existence. Elegant but catastrophic. Then that's where we make our stand, Goku stated with quiet certainty. But we'll need everyone. He turned to Tao, whose cooperation thus far had proved invaluable. Your scientific knowledge and dimensional technology could be crucial in counteracting Tempest Null's methods. The demon scientist considered briefly before nodding. The demon realm's fate is bound to the multiverse. I will contribute our resources to this effort. Kale's projection flickered as she received updates from her commanders. The Saiyan battle fleet stands ready. We will converge on your coordinates when provided. Imperial forces are already mobilizing. Frost added from her command center. Temporal shielding technology has been distributed to key battle groups. Zella extended her hand again, void matter swirling with increased intensity. The Void Kingdom offers sanctuary, a gathering point outside conventional dimensions where Tempest Null cannot easily observe our preparations. Goku accepted her offered hand without hesitation. Go. Elden scales shimmering briefly beneath his skin where they touched. Thank you. We'll need every advantage. As their hands connected, a spark of recognition passed between them, two beings existing partially outside conventional reality. Each protecting domains beyond normal comprehension. Something like understanding flickered in Zella's cosmic eyes. You are more than you appear, Son Goku, she observed quietly. Pitched for his ears alone. The Time Dragon's essence has found worthy vessel. Before he could respond, she released his hand and addressed the group. I will open passage to the Void Kingdom. Gather your forces and allies. We have little time before Tempest Null realizes we've identified his true target. With an elegant gesture, Zella tore open reality itself, creating a portal that revealed a breathtaking vista beyond, a realm of crystalline structures floating in luminous void space, populated by beings whose forms shifted between states of matter. This was the Void Kingdom, existing in the spaces between universes, invisible to conventional perception yet vital to multiversal stability. As they prepared to enter this sanctuary, Goku paused, temporal senses expanding outward. Across the dimensional boundaries, he could feel Tempest Null's preparations accelerating, countless tributaries of possibility being forcibly redirected toward a single predetermined outcome. Final battle for time itself was about to begin, and the fate of all existence would hang in the balance. Let's go, he said simply, leading his unlikely alliance of queens and guardians toward the void between worlds. And the final confrontation that awaited them there. Chapter 3. Culmination. The Void Kingdom defied conventional description. Crystalline landmasses floated in luminous nothingness, connected by bridges of solidified possibility. Structures built from matter that simultaneously existed and didn't exist housed beings whose forms shifted between states with fluid grace. Light behaved differently here, not radiating from sources but emerging spontaneously where needed, then fading when purpose fulfilled. Frost stood at a viewport in Zella's central citadel, imperial composure. Momentarily abandoned as she absorbed the impossible vista. Remarkable. An entire civilization existing in dimensional interstices. The spaces between have always contained more than emptiness, Zella replied. Materializing beside her without conventional movement. The Void Sovereign's form rippled with cosmic energy, stars and nebulae shifting beneath her skin. Your universes float in our ocean, separate yet connected. Nearby, Tao calibrated instruments of her own design, scientific fascination overriding even her demonic pride. The dimensional constants here defy standard models. Our energy conversion occurs spontaneously without entropy loss. Different laws govern different domains, Chronoa observed, ancient eyes recognizing patterns invisible to younger beings. The Void operates by principles of possibility rather than causality. Kale paced restlessly, the warrior's instinct for imminent battle overriding academic interest. Her legendary power flickered beneath disciplined control, responding to her agitation. Fascinating as this realm is, Tempest Null advances while we theorize. Goku stood apart from them all, golden scales shimmering intermittently beneath his skin as he extended his temporal senses across dimensional barriers. Through the Time Dragon's enhanced perception, he witnessed Tempest Null's preparations accelerating, reality itself warping around He nexus of all realities as the entity implemented his grand design. He's already begun, Goku announced, turning to face his assembled allies. The convergence isn't just approaching, it's happening now. Zella nodded gravely, cosmic eyes narrowing. My sentinels report dimensional thinning across all boundaries. The structure weakens. Then we strike immediately, Kale declared, battle readiness evident in her posture. Frost raised an elegant hand. Not without strategy. Rushing headlong against an entity capable of manipulating time itself would be suicidal. For once, I agree with the Imperatrix, Chronoa stated. Setting aside their usual rivalry. We need precise coordination, not just power. Taua stepped forward, pulling up a holographic display from her staff. I've analyzed the temporal patterns from previous encounters. Tempest Null exhibits consistent methodology. He establishes anchor points in each dimension before initiating collapse. Like setting charges at structural supports before demolition. Frost observed with tactical appreciation. Exactly, Taua confirmed. If we can disrupt these anchor points simultaneously while confronting him at the Nexus, we might stabilize the entire convergence process. Goku absorbed their discussion, the Time Dragon's knowledge helping him process concepts that would have been incomprehensible days earlier. What struck him most wasn't the technical details but the way these powerful women had coalesced into an effective unit despite their diverse backgrounds and initial mistrust. We'll need to divide our forces, he decided. Natural leadership emerging without pretension. Strike teams for the anchor points, with our strongest fighters confronting Tempest Null directly. Zella manipulated the void matter around them, creating a three-dimensional map of the multiversal structure. 7 primary anchor points, each requiring specialized counteraction. Her cosmic eyes met each of theirs in turn. We cannot all conference. Ront Tempest Null directly. Some must secure these critical positions. A tense silence fell as implications became clear. They would need to separate, each taking responsibility for different aspects of an impossibly complex operation. Kale broke the silence, martial pragmatism overriding personal preference. My battle fleet can secure the anchor point in Universe 6. Saiyan warriors are adaptable to any combat environment. The Imperial Science Division has developed temporal stabilizers, Frost added. My forces can deploy them at 2 anchor points simultaneously. Taua consulted her readings. My demons excel at interdimensional operations. We'll secure the anchor in the quantum substructure. The Void Kingdom will reinforce the dimensional boundaries themselves, Zella stated. My PLE exist partially outside conventional reality. We can maintain separation even as Tempest Null attempts convergence. Chronoa stepped forward, ancient authority in her diminutive form. As Supreme Kai of Time, I must help confront Tempest Null directly. My knowledge of temporal law may be crucial in countering his methods. All eyes turned to Goku, who stood contemplating the holographic display. Tracing the patterns of connection between dimensions. The weight of his responsibility as Time Dragon had never felt heavier, yet somehow not burdensome. This was purpose beyond fighting, beyond purrs. Onal strength. This was protection on the grandest scale. I'll lead the direct assault on the Nexus, he decided. But not alone. He looked up, meeting each woman's gaze with quiet certainty. All Eid one representative from each realm with me. The rest of your forces can secure the anchor points. Kale's eyes narrowed thoughtfully. Why? Surely concentrated force at the Nexus would be more effective. Because Tempest Null doesn't just threaten our worlds, Goku explained, insights from the Time Dragon's essence merging with his own intuitive understanding. He threatens what makes them unique. Different perspectives, different powers, different approaches to reality itself. That's what the convergence would destroy. Understanding dawned in Frost's calculating eyes. A symbolic countermeasure. We represent the diversity he seeks to eliminate. Not just symbolic, Taua corrected, scientific mind grasping the underlying principle. Quantum entanglement theory suggests representative connection maintains structural integrity. By joining aspects of each dimension directly, we create a reinforced multiversal constant. Zella nodded in solemn approval. The Time Dragon understands better than expected. Preservation requires representation. Decision made, preparation accelerated. Throughout the Void Kingdom's central citadel, forces mobilized across dimensional boundaries. Kale's Saiyan warriors synchronized communications with Frost's Imperial guards. Taua's demon scientists calibrated equipment alongside Chronoa's temporal initiates. Zella's void beings shifted between states of existence, fortifying the dimensional boundaries. Amid this controlled chaos, Goku found a moment of quiet on an observation platform overlooking the impossible landscape. Golden scales shimmered beneath his skin as he centered himself for the coming confrontation, drawing on both Saiyan determination and Time Dragon awareness. Remarkable adaptation, observed Tawa, approaching with scientific curiosity. Your mortal form integrates the cosmic essence more efficiently than theoretical models would predict. Goku smiled slightly. I've had practice changing forms. Super Saiyan, God Ki, ULT, Raw Instinct. They all felt impossible until they weren't. Tawa studied him with penetrating intelligence. Most beings would be consumed by such power, yet you wear it like familiar clothing. She hesitated, uncharacteristic uncertainty crossing her refined features. What anchors you against dissolution? Scientific curiosity, she added hastily. Nothing scientific about it, Goku replied with simple honesty. I just remember why I fight. Family, friends, the thrill of pushing limits, doesn't matter what form I take, those things stay the same. The demon scientist considered his answer, anally. Zing it against countless data points from her research. Purpose is existential constant. Fascinating. Her voice softened imperceptibly. The demon realm pursued power for millennia without such anchoring. The results were catastrophic. And now, Goku asked, genuine interest in his voice. Now we seek knowledge with purpose, Tawa responded, subtle pride evident beneath scientific detachment. My reforms redirected demonic ambition toward understanding reality rather than conquering it. Seems to be working, Goku observed. Your people fight to protect existence, not destroy it. Some thing-like appreciation flickered in Tao's eyes. You see more than your carefree demeanor suggests, son Goku. She straightened, professional manner reasserting itself. Our preparations are complete. The temporal synchronization devices will allow simultaneous action across dimensional boundaries. Before Goku could respond, Kale appeared at the entrance to the platform, battle-ready in Saiyan. Royal armor enhanced with technological improvements. Fleet commanders report ready status. Strike teams await deployment orders. The Saiyan Queen approached, her usual stern demeanor softened by pre-battle focus. For warriors like them, imminent conflict brought clarity rather than anxiety. You've fought universal threats before, she stated rather than asked. Goku nodded. A few times, though nothing quite like this. Yet you show no fear, Kale observed, studying him with newfound respect. Most beings tremble before cosmic annihilation. Being scared doesn't help win fights, Goku replied with characteristic directness. Besides, we've got something Tempest Null doesn't. Kale raised an eyebrow questioningly. Each other, he answered simply. The Saiyan Queen considered this, NNIA of warrior culture weighing against such sentiment. Yet her experiences since meeting the Time Dragon had challenged many Saiyan assumptions about strength and its sources. Perhaps, she acknowledged, the single word carrying significant concession from one raised to value individual power above all else. Frost and Chrono joined them on the platform, completing their core strike team. The Imperatrix had exchanged her formal regalia for combat armor that complemented her natural ice powers, while the Time Kai carried her staff charged with ancient energy. Final coordination complete, Frost reported with imperial efficiency. All forces synchronized for simultaneous deployment. Chrono nodded in confirmation. Temporal alignment established. We can strike at precisely the same moment across all dimensional planes. Zella materialized last, her void form solidifying into more tangible appearance. The pathway to the Nexus has been located. Tempest Null's dimensional distortions made conventional approach impossible. But the void offers alternative routes. Then it's time, Goku stated, golden energy beginning to swirl around his form as he embraced the Time Dragon's power more fully. The void sovereign gestured gracefully, reality parting before her like curtains to reveal a swirling vortex of pure possibility. This passage will take us directly to the nexus of all realities. Once there, conventional physics will partially apply, but expect significant distortions as Tempest Null's convergence progresses. Goku turned to address all 5 women, seeing in each the unique UE strengths that defined them. Chrono's ancient wisdom, Frost's strategic brilliance, Kale's warrior spirit, Tao's scientific genius, and Zella's cosmic perspective. Different in almost every way, yet united by shared purpose. Whatever happens, remember what we're fighting for, he said simply. Not just to stop destruction, but to protect possibility itself, the right of every universe to find its own path. With those words, he stepped into the vortex, golden scales spreading across his skin as the time dragon's essence prepared for confrontation with its antithesis. His unlikely allies followed, each bringing the full measure of their power and perspective to the final battle for time itself. The nexus of all realities transcended conventional description. Neither location nor dimension, on but the conceptual junction where all universes connected, it appeared differently to each observer while maintaining certain fundamental constants. Crystalline structures grew in impossible formations, each facet reflecting a different universe's laws. The ground beneath their feet shifted between states, solid, liquid, gaseous, plasma, depending on which dimensional influence dominated moment by moment. Most striking was the central column, a towering vortex of pure chronological energy stretching infinitely upward and downward, threads of possibility spiraling around its circumference. Each thread represented a distinct timeline, and all were being systematically pulled inward, compressed toward a single golden strand that pulsed with disturbing perfection. The prime timeline, Chronoa whispered, horror and fascination mingling in her voice. He's actually creating it. At the vortex's base stood Tempest Null himself, a humanoid figure composed of crystallized time. His form shifted between ages and states, simultaneously young and old, forming and dissipating, yet maintaining consistent purpose. In his hands, he manipulated strands of reality with the precision of a master weaver. Methodically combining timelines into his singular vision, he looked up as they emerged from Zella's portal, expression showing neither surprise nor concern. Right on schedule, he observed, voice resonating with temporal harmonics. The Defender party arrives precisely when anticipated. This ends now, Tempest Null, Goku declared, golden scales covering his form completely as he channeled the Time Dragon's full power. The entity regarded him with something like pity. Such conviction in your ignorance. You oppose that which you cannot comprehend, Time Dragon. We understand enough, Frost stated coldly, ice energy crystallizing around her hands. You would destroy infinite diversity for enforced singularity. Destruction. Tempest Null shook his head. No. Perfection. Refinement of all possibility into optimal sequence. He gestured toward the compression vortex where countless timelines merged. Imagine a universe without tragedy, without waste, without the chaotic suffering produced by random chance. Without choice, Kale countered, green energy of her controlled legendary form flaring around her muscular frame. Without growth through struggle, Tempest Null's expression hardened. Choice is illusion born of ignorance. I have witnessed every possibility, every outcome across infinite iterations. Free will exists only because you cannot see the full pattern. Yet you yourself chose this path. Taoa observed with scientific precision. Your determination to enforce order contradicts your own philosophy. Something flickered across Tempest Null's crystalline features. A momentary crack in his perfect certainty. I was forced to this understanding. Shown the truth by time itself. Show us then, Goku challenged, stepping forward. If you've seen something we haven't, prove it. The entity studied him for a moment, then smiled thinly. Very well, Time Dragon. Before you die opposing inevitable perfection, you should understand what you fight against. With a gesture, the space around them transformed. They stood within what appeared to be a laboratory of advanced design, where a human scientist worked frantically at temporal equipment. His appearance was unremarkable, middle-aged, dedicated. Ordinary in every way except the desperation in his movements. Professor Kronos, Chronoa whispered in recognition. The temporal theorist from Universe 3. The scene continued unfolding around them. The scientist initiated a sequence on his device, creating a small window into another timeline. Through this aperture, he watched an alternate version of himself e.m.b. racing a woman and child, a family that, based on his tearful reaction, his own timeline had lost. I was once like you, Tempest Null's voice narrated as they witnessed the scientist's obsessive work. Limited by perspective, driven by personal loss, believing I could change just one event without consequences. The scene shifted, showing the scientist successfully retrieving his family from the alternate timeline. Joy radiating from his reunited household. Then, slowly, Reality began unraveling around them. Temporal paradoxes multiplied exponentially from his interference, causing cascading failures throughout his universe. One change required another to stabilize it. Tempest Null continued as they watched the scientist desperately attempting to repair the damage, making increasingly dramatic alterations to the timestream. And another, until the only solution was comprehensive temporal engineering. The scientist aged before their eyes, his work consuming decades as he expanded from localized adjustments to fundamental restructuring of reality itself. His appearance gradually shifted, humanity giving way to something else as prolonged exposure to temporal energy transformed him into the being that now stood before them. I witnessed every possible configuration of reality, Tempest Null concluded as the vision faded. Quintillions of variations, each containing unique suffering and joy, victory and tragedy, and through comparative analysis, identified the optimal sequence, the prime timeline where the maximum good manifests for all creation. Silence followed his revelation, each processing what they had witnessed differently. Goku felt unexpected empathy for the being Tempest Null had once been, a person driven by love and loss, transformed by power beyond mortal comprehension. I understand your pain, he said finally. Losing family, that would drive anyone to extremes. This isn't about my personal loss, Tempest Null corrected sharply. That was merely the catalyst for universal enlightenment. I seek to eliminate all suffering through perfect causality. By eliminating all choice, Zella countered, her cosmic voice resonating with ancient certainty. The multiverse exists in diversity by design, not accident. A flawed design, Tempest Null insisted. Infinite possibility means infinite suffering repeated endlessly across dimensional barriers. My intervention creates a single perfect sequence where optimal outcomes manifest for all beings. Optimal by whose definition? Frost challenged, imperial authority in her tone. Your judgment of perfection is itself subjective, one consciousness imposing its values across all existence. Tempest Null's patience visibly thinned, the compression vortex accelerating behind him. Enough philosophy. The convergence proceeds regardless of your comprehension or approval. Even now, your forces at the anchor points discover the futility of resistance. With a gesture, he created viewing windows into each dimensional anchor point. The scenes revealed their allied forces engaged in desperate battles against temporal distortions, Kale's Saiyan fleet firing energy weapons at crystallized time constructs. Frost's imperial scientists deploying stabilization fields against reality fractures, Tao's demons utilizing dimensional technology against chronal aberrations, Zella's void beings reinforcing weakening boundaries between universes. They fight valiantly, Tempest Null acknowledged. But the mathematics of inevitability cannot be overcome by determination alone. The convergence has reached critical momentum. Mathematics isn't everything, Goku replied, settling into a fighting stance. I've beaten inevitable odds before. Without further warning, he launched forward, golden energy. Y trailing from his form as he struck directly at Tempest Null. The entity shifted partially out of temporal phase, causing the attack to pass through his semi-substantial form. He countered with a gesture that sent crystallized time shards hurtling toward the group. Kale intercepted the projectiles, her legendary form's extraordinary durability allowing her to shatter them with bare hands. Frost immediately followed with a precision ice beam that momentarily froze Tempest Null in place, only for him to accelerate his personal timestream and break free before the ice fully formed. Conventional attacks are ineffective, Chronoa observed, staff glowing as she analyzed the entity's defenses. He exists partially outside normal time flow. Then we match his temporal manipulation, Taoa concluded, activating devices on her wrists that glowed with demonic energy. Coordinated chronological disruption on multiple vectors. Zella moved with impossible grace, her void form allowing her to approach from angles that defied conventional geometry. The Nexus responds to representative will. Each of us must attack from our domain's perspective simultaneously. Understanding blossomed among them, strategy forming without words needed. They separated, each taking position at different points around the compression vortex, representing the dimensional aspects of the multiverse Tempest Null sought to compress. Chronoa channeled pure temporal law through her staff, creating a framework of regulatory energy that attempted to impose multiversal constants against Tempest Null's alterations. Frost Enerated absolute zero conditions that slowed chronological particles to near stasis, creating zones where the convergence temporarily halted. Kale unleashed her legendary power in concentrated bursts. That introduced chaotic energy into Tempest Null's carefully calculated patterns. Taoa deployed scientific countermeasures that reversed polarity on specific temporal frequencies, causing destructive interference. Zella manipulated the void matter of the nexus itself, reinforcing dimensional separation at critical junctures. Goku, drawing on the Time Dragon's fullest expression, became the focal point of their combined efforts, his golden form absorbing and redirecting their specialized energies directly against the convergence mechanism. Temporal power beyond mortal comprehension surged through him, threatening to tear his physical form apart despite the cosmic essence reinforcing his Saiyan biology. For a moment, their combined assault seemed to work. The compression vortex stuttered, time lines beginning to separate back into natural diversity. Tempest Null's expression showed genuine alarm as his millennia of work began to unravel. Then, with terrible precision, he countered. His hands moved in complex patterns, fingers weaving reality itself as he implemented contingency protocols embedded throughout the multiversal structure. Enough, he commanded, voice reverberating with authority drawn from the fabric of time itself. Reality shattered around them. Each found themselves suddenly isolated in a fragmented pocket dimension, separated from allies and facing personalized manifestations of Tempest Null's power. Goku staggered as the connection with his allies severed, golden scales flickering as his concentration broke. He stood alone on what appeared to be a crystalline platform suspended in void. Tempest Null's primary form confronting him directly. Interesting strategy, the entity acknowledged. Utilizing dimensional representatives to counter universal compression. Hey, raps, you understand more than I credited. His expression hardened. But understanding does not equal capacity. You remain fundamentally limited by your origins, Time Dragon. Goku settled back into fighting stance. Golden energy stabilizing around him. Maybe, but limitations have never stopped me before. Tempest Null studied him with clinical detachment. Chronos chose poorly. A Saiyan vessel for cosmic power. Your species lives for conflict, not harmony. You seek the next challenge rather than final resolution. Exactly, Goku agreed with unexpected enthusiasm. That's what you don't get. The journey matters more than the destination. Primitive philosophy, Tempest Null dismissed. The product of finite perception. Maybe, Goku acknowledged, but I'm not alone in thinking that way. He closed his eyes briefly, focusing not on the Time Dragon's cosmic awareness but on his connection to the allies now separated from him. Through the golden energy flowing through his veins, he sensed them, each facing their own manifestation of Tempest Null's power, each bringing their unique perspective to bear against impossible odds. In her isolated reality fragment, Frost faced a version of her empire reduced to absolute entropy, a heat-death timeline where her ice powers meant nothing against fundamental dissolution. The Tempest Null fragment confronting her appeared as a twisted reflection of herself, what she might become after eons of failed preservation efforts. Your entire existence is preservation of that which must inevitably end, this manifestation stated with cold certainty. The prime timeline grants your people eternal stability, no more constant struggle against entropy. Frost studied the desolate landscape, planets reduced to scattered particles, stars faded to dim embers. Civilization's remnants drifting in empty void. A lesser ruler might have despaired at such comprehensive failure. Instead, she smiled thinly. You understand nothing of preservation's purpose. With imperial dignity, she gestured toward the entropy surrounding them. This isn't failure, it's natural cycle. My people preserve not because we fear ending, but because we value journey. The temperature around her dropped impossibly, ice forming not from water but from conceptual possibility itself. The Imperatrix preserves choice, not outcome. Your perfect timeline offers neither. Her ice energy expanded exponentially, transforming the entropic void into crystalline structures of breathtaking complexity, not restoring what was lost but creating something entirely new from dissolution's components. Remarkable adaptation, the Tempest fragment acknowledged, genuine surprise in its tone. Imperial tradition, Frost replied with quiet pride. We have survived 17 extinction-level events through history. Adaptation is our fundamental constant. Her eyes narrowed in determination. And we will survive you as well. As if responding to her resolve, a thread of golden energy Y appeared, connecting her to Goku's central consciousness despite Tempest Null's dimensional separation. Through this connection, she felt the others, each fighting their own battles yet increasingly linked through the Time Dragon's essence. Kale roared in frustration, her legendary form pulsing with chaotic energy as she faced a manifestation of Tempest Null wearing the appearance of ancient Saiyan royalty. Around them stretched a version of planet Sadala where her people had achieved perfect control over their berserker nature, a civilization of unprecedented harmony and advancement. Is this not what you sought? The false king asked, gesturing to Saiyans living without the internal struggle that had defined their species. Perfect balance between power and control. The prime timeline offers your people freedom from their genetic curse. The Saiyan queen studied her transformed subjects, their movements precise, their emotions regulated, their potential channeled exclusively toward productive endeavors. To many observers, this would indeed appear utopian. Kale saw only imprisonment. You call this perfection? She demanded, green energy flaring around her clenched fists. These aren't Saiyans. They're puppets wearing Saiyan form. She struck her armored chest with fierce pride. Our struggle defines us. The battle for control makes victory meaningful. Primitive valorization of unnecessary suffering. The manifestation dismissed. Necessary growth. Kale corrected, her controlled berserker form physical proof of her philosophy. I mastered this power through failure, pain, and persistence. You're perfect. Saiyans never earned their control, you simply removed their capacity for chaos. With deliberate focus, she allowed her legendary form to fluctuate, not fighting for ECT control but establishing harmony with her chaotic nature. Balance isn't absence of extremes, she declared as her power stabilized at a new level, but integration of them. As she achieved this personal revelation, golden energy connected her consciousness to Goku and the others, their diverse struggles resonating through the Time Dragon's essence that linked them across fragmented dimensions. Tao analyzed the laboratory manifested around her with scientific detachment, recognizing the strategy behind Tempest Null's personalized illusion. Her fragment of the entity had assumed the form of her predecessor, the demon scientist who had first theorized multiversal manipulation. Your reforms are temporary, this false mentor stated, displaying holographic projections of timeline variants. Statistical analysis proves the demon realm reverts to chaos in 89.7% of all possible futures. The prime timeline permanently establishes your vision of demonic evolution. The advanced laboratory around them contained technology even Tao had only theorized, devices capable of implementing her most ambitious research instantly rather than over centuries. The temptation was precisely calibrated to her scientific ambition. Impressive manipulation attempt, she acknowledged, circling the equipment with professional assessment. Targeting my desire for guaranteed outcomes rather than experimental risk. Not manipulation, opportunity. The fragment countered, your scientific mind should recognize optimization when presented. Tao stopped before a particular device, a consciousness stabilize. That could permanently align demonic nature with rational thought. Indeed, my scientific mind recognizes patterns quite effectively. Her eyes narrowed analytically, including the pattern of choice elimination disguised as efficiency. With casual elegance, she deactivated the holographic temptations. The fundamental flaw in your model is presuming certainty is superior to possibility. True Chance requires both controlled constants and unpredictable variables. She tapped her staff against the laboratory floor, demonic energy pulsing outward. The demon realm chose reformation with full awareness of potential regression. That choice itself represents evolutionary advancement your model cannot accommodate. As she articulated this fundamental truth, golden energy manifested around her, connecting her consciousness to Goku and the others across dimensional barriers. Through this connection, she immediately began analyzing the pattern forming between them, scientific mind recognizing an emergent countermeasure to Tempest Null's separation strategy. Zella faced her manifestation of Tempest Null within a representation of the Void Kingdom transformed by the convergence. Unlike the chaotic beauty of interdimensional spaces, this version presented rigid geometric perfection. Void matter crystallized into unchanging patterns, void beings uniformly structured rather than constantly evolving. Your domain suffers from definitional instability, the manifestation stated, itself appearing as a void being of perfect symmetry. The prime timeline establishes consistent dimensional boundaries with mathematical precision. No more fluctuation, no more constant adaptation required. The Void Sovereign observed this sterile perfection with cosmic perspective few beings could comprehend. Where others might see order, she recognized entropy of a different kind, the death of possibility itself. You fundamentally misunderstand the Void's purpose, she replied, her form shifting between states as she spoke, demonstrating rather than explaining her point. We exist not despite fluctuation but because of it. The spaces between define the structures themselves. She gestured toward the crystallized void matter surrounding them. This isn't perfection, it's calcification. Terminal stability masquerading as improvement. With ancient authority born from eons observing universal cycles, he began manipulating the void around them, not fighting against Tempest Null's imposed order but introducing subtle variations that gradually propagated through the system. Microscopic asymmetries expanded into beautiful complexity. Rigid patterns yielding to emergent order. The void thrives on adaptive response, she explained as harmonious chaos blossomed around them. Perfect stability would emanate our fundamental nature as boundary keepers. As her conscious manipulation of void matter expanded, golden energy connected her to the others across dimensional fragments. Through this connection, she immediately recognized the multiversal pattern forming through their combined resistance, a counterpoint to Tempest Null's forced convergence. Chronoa confronted her version of Tempest Null with, in the time nest, her rightful domain as Supreme Kai of Time. This manifestation wore the appearance of Chronos himself, the time dragon who had chosen Goku over her despite her millennia of preparation. Your dedication to temporal law is admirable but misguided, this false Chronos stated with patriarchal condescension. Laws exist to serve optimal outcomes, not as absolutes unto themselves. The prime timeline represents law's perfect expression. Around them, the time nest appeared immaculate, scrolls perfectly organized, temporal anomalies non-existent, the burden of constant vigilance eliminated by perfect causal structure. No paradoxes to resolve, no alternate timelines to monitor, just singular, perfect progression. Chronoa might once have been tempted by such order. Now, having witnessed the multiverse's true nature through recent events, she recognized the stagnation hidden behind apparent perfection. Temporal law exists to protect diversity, not eliminate it, she countered, staff glowing with ancient power. You offer regression disguised as advancement, a universe without meaningful choice or consequence. The manifestation smiled indulgently, still bitter about being passed over. Perhaps in the prime timeline, you become Time Dragon as deserved. Chronoa's eyes narrowed dangerously. Once, that might have swayed me. But I've learned something important recently. She straightened to her full height. Diminutive form radiating ancient authority. Worthiness isn't measured by ambition or preparation, but by understanding purpose. She struck her staff against the ground, temporal energy spiraling outward. Chronos chose correctly. The Time Dragon protects possibility itself, something I had forgotten in my pursuit of position. As this admission crystallized into genuine acceptance, golden energy connected her consciousness to Goku and the others. Through this connection, her vast knowledge of temporal mechanics recognized what was forming, a multiversal consta. NT based on representative choice rather than enforced convergence. In the central fragment, Goku felt each of these connections forming, golden threads of chronological energy linking him to each of his allies across dimensional barriers. Through these connections, their experiences, revelations, and unique perspectives flowed into his consciousness, strengthening the Time Dragon's essence within him. Tempest Null observed this development with growing concern. Interesting. You establish quantum entanglement across my separation barriers. His expression hardened, futile, but impressively adaptive. Goku smiled, confidence growing as the connection strengthened. Not just entanglement, understanding. He settled deeper into his stance, golden scales glowing brighter as power flowed through the established connections. Each of them just proved why your perfect timeline isn't perfect at all. Subjective resistance based on limited perspective, Tempest Null dismissed, though uncertain. Indy flickered across his crystalline features. The mathematics of optimization remain absolute. Mathematics can't measure everything that matters, Goku countered, drawing on wisdom beyond his USU. Al understanding as the combined insights of his allies flowed through their connection. Frost showed that adaptation through struggle creates strength preservation alone never could. Kale proved integration of chaos and order produces something stronger than perfect control. Tao demonstrated that certainty without variables eliminates scientific progress itself. Zella revealed that boundaries need flexibility to remain functional. And Chronoa realized that temporal law exists to protect diversity, not eliminate it. With each stated truth, the golden connections brightened, reality itself responding to fundamental principles articulated through representative consciousness. The fragmented dimensions began to destabilize not toward convergence but toward restored separation. Tempest Null's confident facade cracked further. Alarm evident as his carefully constructed reality fragments began losing cohesion. Impossible. The convergence calculations are perfect. Perfect but incomplete, Goku replied. Golden energy swirling around him as he prepared his final move. You calculated everything except choice itself. With those words, he channeled the combined power flowing through the multiversal connections. Golden energy erupted from his form, not as an attack against Tempest Null directly, but as a restoration wave that reinforced the natural boundaries between dimensions while maintaining their connections. Reality shattered once more, but this time fracturing Tempest Null's artificial constraints rather than natural order. The dimensional fragments collapsed, returning each them to the nexus of all realities proper. The compression vortex stuttered, timelines beginning to separate back into their natural diversity. Tempest Null staggered backward, disbelief evident as his millennia of work unraveled before him. No, the calculations were perfect. The prime timeline is mathematically optimal. Maybe by your definition, Goku replied as his allies materialized beside him. Each radiating power from their respective domains. But the multiverse isn't just math. It's choice and consequence, struggle and growth, chaos and harmony working together. Frost stepped forward, imperial authority in her bearing. Optimization without adaptation leads to evolutionary dead ends. Control without chaos eliminates the strength gained through mastery, Kale added, her legan. Dairy form stabilized through newfound understanding. Tao's scientific precision cut through remaining objections. Your model eliminated variables necessary for genuine advancement. Boundaries require flexibility to function. Zella stated with cosmic certainty. Absolute stability creates absolute vulnerability. Chronoa completed their unified front, ancient wisdom in her voice. Temporal law exists to protect diversity itself, the fundamental constant of healthy existence. Together, they formed a living representation of multiversal principles, each embodying aspects of existence Tempest Null sought to optimize away. The connections between them pulsed with golden energy, creating a counterpoint to the compression vortex that continued destabilizing behind the increasingly desperate entity. You cannot comprehend what you're preventing. Tempest Null cried, genuine anguish breaking through his formerly composed exterior. I've witnessed every permutation, endless suffering repeated across infinite iterations. The prime timeline eliminates unnecessary pain and necessary growth, Goku countered with unexpected gentleness. You forgot something important while calculating optimiza. Tian. The journey matters more than the destination. Understanding dawned in Tempest Null's eyes, recognition that his fundamental premise contained an error no amount of perfect calculation could overcome. His form began destabilizing, crystallized time cracking as the compression vortex collapsed behind him. What have you done? He whispered, watching as timeline threads separated, returning to N. Eternal progression rather than forced convergence. Eons of work, perfect calculation. We chose differently, Goku replied simply, and protected everyone else's right to do the same. The compression vortex imploded, releasing accumulated chronological energy in a devastating wave that threatened to tear apart the nexus itself. Tempest Null made no move to save himself, watching with acceptance as his life's work dissolved around him. The temporal backlash, Chronoa shouted over the rising maelstrom. If it destabilizes the nexus, all dimensions could collapse regardless. Zella's cosmic eyes widened in alarm. The dimensional boundaries cannot withstand this level of chronological discharge. Understanding the threat instantly, Goku stepped forward. Everyone grab onto me, now. Without hesitation, the 5 women formed a circle around him, each placing a hand on his shoulders or arms. Golden scales covered his form completely as he drew on the Time Dragon's fullest expression. Channeling power beyond mortal comprehension. "What are you doing?" Frost demanded, feeling reality warping around them. "Creating a temporal anchor point," Goku explained through gritted teeth. The strain of channeling such power evident. Something stable for the multiverse to reorganize around. Tao's scientific mind grasped the concept immediately. A living multiversal constant. Lenient but potentially fatal to the anchor. Not if we share the burden, Chronoa realized, her ancient knowledge of temporal mechanics recognizing the possibility. Distribute the anchor point Acros. Representatives from each dimensional aspect. Kale nodded in fierce agreement. Together then, whatever the cost. As the chronological maelstrom reached critical intensity, golden energy flowed fr. Own Goku into each of them, not transferring but sharing the Time Dragon's essence across 6 points of connection. Their forms began to transform, each manifesting aspects of draconic appearance appropriate to their native dimensions. Frost developed scales of crystalline ice, Kale's legendary form incorporated golden patterns across green energy, Tao's demonic features merged with draconic elegance. Zella's void matter formed cosmic dragon patterns, Chronoa's diminutive form expanded with ancient temporal power. Together, they created a 6-pointed temporal anchor, each representing fundamental aspects of multiversal existence. Together forming a living constant that reality itself could reorganize around. The chronological discharge from the collapsed convergence flowed through them rather than destroying the nexus. Their combined consciousness directing it back into natural channels throughout the multiverse. Tempest Null watched this transformation with fading awareness, his form dissolving as the prime timeline concept unraveled completely. "Perhaps I miscalculated after all," he acknowledged as crystallized time cracked and shattered around him. The optimal configuration wasn't convergence but balanced diversity. With those words, the entity once known as Professor Kronos dissolved completely, not destroyed but reabsorbed into the timestream he had sought to perfect. His consciousness dispersed across the very diversity he had attempted to eliminate. The chronological storm gradually subsided as dimensional balance reasserted itself. Throughout the multiverse, normal temporal progression returned. The anchor points they had established held firm, their allied forces witnessing reality stabilizing around these focal points of representative will. When the temporal maelstrom finally dissipated completely, the 6 remained transformed, each bearing permanent marks of their shared connection to the Time Dragon's essence. The nexus itself had changed, no longer a neutral connection point but a living center actively maintained by their combined consciousness. "The multiversal structure is stabilizing," Chronoa reported, ancient knowledge enhanced by her partial transformation. Timeline division returning to natural parameters. Dimensional boundaries reinforced beyond previous strength, Zella added, her cosmic perception expanded through the shared essence. The void between flows with renewed purpose. Frost examined her transformed state with imperial assessment. "We've become living constants, personifications of multiversal principles." "More than that," Tao observed, scientific mind analyzing their new condition. "We've established a governing council for temporal oversight. Distributed authority rather than singular control." Kale flexed her transformed hands. Feeling power fundamentally changed yet familiar. A circle of guardians instead of a single dragon. Goku looked around at what they had created together, not just victory again. Saint impossible odds but a new approach to multiversal protection. The Time Dragon's essence now flowed through all 6 of them, creating a balanced system that no single perspective could dominate. "So what happens now?" he asked, characteristically focused on practical next steps despite cosmic transformation. Chronoa smiled with newfound humility. "Now we maintain what we've created, a multiversal constant based on representative balance rather than enforced convergence. Each returning to our domains while maintaining connection through the nexus," Frost elaborated with strategic clarity. Ix perspectives ensuring no single view dominates temporal oversight. A rotation system, Taoa suggested, scientific mind already formulating logistics. Each serving as primary guardian while others maintain their realms. Zella nodded in cosmic approval. Balance through diversity rather than uniformity. Most appropriate. As they discussed the practical implications of their transformation, Th. E-Nexus reshaped itself around them, forming a central chamber where their collective consciousness could convene regardless of physical location. The golden connections between them remained permanent, allowing instantaneous communication across dimensional boundaries. Kale approached Goku as the others examined their new shared domain, her transformed state emphasizing rather than diminishing her warrior's directness. "You could have taken this power for yourself," she observed quietly. "The Time Dragon's essence could have made you sole guardian rather than sharing authority." Goku smiled, characteristically unconcerned with such distinctions. "That wouldn't have worked. One perspective isn't enough for something this important." He gestured toward the others. "Besides, fighting alongside, all of you proved that different approaches make us stronger together than apart." The Saiyan Queen studied him with newfound respect, seeing beyond the carefree exterior to the wisdom that had earned the Time Dragon's choice. "Perhaps there is something to learn from your approach," she acknowledged, the admission significant from one raised in warrior hierarchy. Before conversations could continue further, chronological alarms activated around them, not warning of catastrophe but notifying them of dimensional situations requiring attention. The newly formed Council of Temporal Guardians had work to begin. Dimensional anomalies detected in Universes 3, 7, and 11, Chronoa reported, accessing information through their shared connection. Aftermath of the convergence attempt rather than new threat. "My empire can address Universe 3, Frost offered immediately, imperial efficiency unchanged by cosmic transformation. Kale nodded sharply. "Saiyan forces will secure Universe 11. Which leaves your home universe to you, Time Dragon," Tawa observed with subtle humor. "Appropriate first assignment." Goku's expression brightened at the prospect of returning home, even briefly. "I should probably explain to my friends why I disappeared and came back with scales. We'll reconvene when immediate stabilization is complete," Zella stated, cosmic authority balanced by newfound connection to individual concerns, each maintaining our separate domains while sharing oversight through our connection. As they prepared to depart to their respective responsibilities, opening dimensional pathways with their newly shared abilities, the six guardians exchanged final glances, acknowledgement of the extraordinary bond now connecting them across all barriers of time and space. What had begun as unlikely alliance had transformed into something unprecedented in multiversal history, a balanced council of representatives ensuring that infinite diversity would continue flourishing across all dimensions. No single timeline forced toward artificial perfection, no single perspective dominating cosmic oversight. Goku, still adapting to his transformed existence yet fundamentally unchanged in spirit, smiled as golden energy gathered around his form. The adventure hadn't ended, it had evolved into something greater than he could have imagined when the dying Time Dragon first chose him. As he opened a pathway back to Universe 7, golden scales shimmering beneath Saiyan's skin, he realized that his greatest strength had never been power alone but the connections formed with others across all boundaries. A fitting revelation for the Time Dragon who now shared his essence with representatives from across the multiverse, united in purpose while celebrating difference itself. The cosmos had narrowly avoided forced convergence into single perfection. Instead, it would continue its messy, chaotic, glorious evolution, protected by guardians who understood that the journey itself gave meaning to existence. And somewhere across dimensional barriers, the dispersed consciousness that had once been Tempest Null began slow reconstitution, not as singular entity but as distributed awareness gradually learning what its mathematical models had failed to quantify. That perfect order without choice was no paradise at all, but the ultimate entropy disguised as optimization. The multiverse would continue its infinite dance of possibility, not despite but because of its contradictions and variations. And the Council of Temporal Guardians would ensure that dance continued, not by enforcing pattern but by protecting choice itself. The end. Thank you for watching this video. Please be sure to subscribe to our channel and like this video.